called Gateway City Parks. It is a program that provides funding for projects like the Twin City Trail project, and the program I manage is providing approximately $2 million for design of the Twin City project. We are the organization, the executive office has retained Brown, Richardson and Rowe and Stantec, a landscape architects and engineers respectively, to help design the project. So essentially I'm serving as project manager for the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. One of two state agencies, by the way, that's pretty central to this. MassDOT, the Department of Transportation, not represented here tonight, but also another state agency central to this, and in fact the largest sum of money coming to the project from the state is slated to come from the from the Department of Transportation. Approximately $11.3 million coming from the state's Department of Transportation for the actual construction of the project. In addition, thanks to Congressman Olber some years ago, money flowing for the acquisition of the rail right-of-way from CSX, also coming through the, in this case, federal transportation dollars. But so the state is very involved, lots of dollars coming from the transportation agencies, and design funding coming from the agency I work for, Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. And again, Kirk Giertner, happy to talk more later, but let me let
before you go on any further, I just want to tell you, he's been so instrumental to this project. There are so many moving pieces, and he has the ability, and he pretty much runs the meetings, and most meetings have about 20 to 22 people around. That's the small meeting around the table. And everyone has something to say, something to add, and his job has really kind of been to put it all together, and he really has done just a really wonderful job. Other thing I wanted to say is that as they talk about this proposal, this is probably the most unique project of its kind in the state because there is so much federal money involved in it. And as they speak to that tonight, I think you'll touch on some of the variables. So things are a little bit different in the sense that the federal requirements are a little bit different in terms of easements or encroachments on the property. So it's a little bit different than a typical state project where they might have a little more flexibility. So anyway, I'm sure you'll talk a little bit about that tonight. It's certainly a variable out there. It's not earth-shattering, but it does mean we have to handle the project a little bit different.
Okay, Michael Tushman from Brown, Richardson and Rowe. We're the landscape architects and private consultant. So we, Kurt is our client, and we are working with Stantec to do the design work for the trail and to present information so we can get some feedback and make sure that the trail is designed in a way that works for all the stakeholders involved.
And I'm Elise D'Onofrio. We'll be working with the team. I'm from Stantec. We're a multidiscipline engineering consulting firm, and we'll be responsible for the engineering design of the rail trail.
So just by way of background, Energy and Environmental Affairs, the program was interested in pick this project, was pleased to pick this project in the first place because it is unique, as the mayor was saying. 4.5 miles from one downtown to another, ability to connect two important cities in the Commonwealth by way of a former rail right-of-way. The corridor will provide opportunity not just for recreational use, but also we view it as a practical transportation corridor. People are going to want to come to downtown Leominster. They're going to want to get to the train station in Fitchburg. This is an opportunity for practical access in addition to the kinds of things one otherwise uses a rail trail for: walking, biking, recreation. So pretty excited about the opportunities to do this. One of the reasons why Secretary Beaton was willing to invest in the design of the trail, the design, by the way, meeting federal standards, because we have federal dollars coming here in two forms. We have money coming to the project to acquire the rail right-of-way in the first place from CSX, and we have federal dollars coming for construction of the project through congestion mitigation and air quality funding. So The design that's being done by this team, by Brown, Richardson and Rowe and Stantec, is of necessity meeting federal standards for that design. Can't tap their dollars and take advantage of them without doing that. So that is what is happening here. And we are in the sort of preliminary design stages, working toward actually acquiring the interests from CSX, working toward a purchase and sale agreement, and otherwise working to advance the project. We do want to walk you through the design itself, and maybe this might be a moment to pause, allow, I think Michael's going to lead us through a description of the design. We also have a handout for you on some of the basics of the project.
Sure.
What's that?
Just get done one.
Can I have an extra one for the city clerk too, please? Thank you very much. Thanks.
So, as Kurt said, the purpose of this trail is to connect two gateway cities, after downtown, downtown Fitchburg, roughly 4.5 miles all the way to downtown Leominster here. Where we are, the trail that really goes all the way to Mechanic Street, over the old railroad bridge, 3-arch bridge. That'll be the end, and that will connect to the downtown Leominster. The trail heads north through Credit Park. Follows the layout of the old railroad for the most part all the way through town. We do have a couple bridge crossings. There is the crossing at Route 2, pedestrian, the rail bridge over is going to be looked at as either upgraded or replaced, so there's a trail crossing for bikes and pedestrians over Route 2, and that will be upgraded or rehab bridge as well. So the other thing that I just want to point out as we go is this green line represents some of the bus routes, and we want to highlight there's connections to many things. So it is a recreational trail, but what's unique is that it also provides real transportation to schools, hospitals, shopping opportunities. So it's really being seen as a transportation corridor that's really a unique opportunity. Here. So just to highlight some of the areas, some of the studies have been done. This is an early stage design, but this is near the southern end of the trail. So this is Water Street and the historic train station. Now, there are some ideas that, what could be happening around the trail in the future. So, this may look a little ambitious, but the idea is that as the trail comes towards its end, that this building might have a future as a reuse, and we're aware that this parcel to the north is also looking at being redeveloped. So this is how development of the trail really could generate a whole redevelopment of this area. So there's two sort of different approaches to the intersection, how the traffic moves through here, and what it could be. And then I just want to, the other thing we can highlight, the numbers here relate to some of the numbers on your plans and over there, but just the character of the trail. Right now, it's was left after they moved the iron rails, but different characters. There's areas which will go through the one which is very simple, just a pathway and open shoulders. There's also, we've looked at what it's like when the trail goes by some of the private residences. There's been concern of, that people's backyards back up into it. In certain locations, there may be fences provided, but, the studies have shown that once a trail goes in and is used, it actually becomes an amenity for the people who live near it. The crime rate goes down on trails, and property values go up. So that's, hope we can demonstrate that. But, there may be some concerns where houses are very close and somebody wants a fence or something like that, and that can be accommodated. Very simple trails. When I look at the roadways, guardrails and certain safety aspects, and then what it would look like going through Carter Park. Until recently, within the last 10, 15 years, the rails were there. Will follow the same pathway through the park, but as another pathway through there. So I think that's a general outline. You can go into more detail on any of these, but that's a general outline what the park design would be like.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions if you're ready to.
Sure.
What phase are we in? I mean, are we still dreaming, or is this really going to be reality? I know we were having a hard time acquiring. It's like an act of God when you're dealing with the railroad. So where do we stand with making this a reality, and what's the time frame?
No, this is a reality. The team, particularly Larry Casazo behind me, has been negotiating with CSX. Have a draft purchase and sale agreement. We basically have reached agreement in broad strokes on a price, and so this is real. We hope to actually execute the purchase sometime before the fall. So working closely with the two cities, with CSX, the state agencies, and all the parties concerned to make it happen. And we are very actively engaged in design, anticipating the acquisition occurring sometime in the fall. This is a reality.
Okay. I know that over the past couple of years, I actually bought a Cannondale bike, and I've been doing a lot of biking, and I've been on the trail that runs from downtown Air all the way up into Nashua. It's about 11.5 miles one way. I've been on the trail that goes from Lexington all the way into Cambridge, and then I followed the Fresh Pond Parkway right into downtown Boston. It was a great ride, and I can tell you that these trails are very well used. They were mobbed with people. It was both times I went out on those trails, it was on a Sunday, so they're very well used, and some of them are quite lengthy. This is actually a shorter trail. Is there any room for expansion in the future to make it beyond downtown Fitchburg or beyond downtown Leominster, or is this going to be the furthest that we'll ever be able to acquire land to make the trail?
Well, as far as Gateway City Parks goes, we have funded a lot of these sorts of projects. We view these as particularly important, the kinds of things that are challenging for a city to pull off on its own. We like to get involved in projects that a city has trouble finding all the funding to do, has trouble getting all the parties coordinated to pull off, and projects that we believe can be transformative. We like to invest in projects that, yes, they're about parks, yes, they're about open space, yes, they're about recreation, but to some degree they're also about revitalization, about economic development, and we think this project has that kind of quality. Now, I have not, some of the team may be more familiar than I am with where the rail goes after it leaves downtown Leominster and heads south. If there's opportunity to explore further trail construction on the corridor, we'd be game to help you do that. Certainly, in the case of other trails, I'm thinking of the Columbia River Greenway in the city of Westfield. The trail now starts in downtown Westfield, goes all the way to the Southwick town line, goes all the way through the town of Southwick, and heads south into Connecticut. We certainly understand that 4.5 miles is a great start, but if there's opportunity for more, we're game to talk to you about it.
Okay. Yeah, actually.
Complete Streets program, our Complete Streets grant will tie in. Ultimately,
Right.
The goal is to tie in our current roadway configuration to shopping areas, living areas, places of employment, schools, and tie it all in so that everything interconnects, and that's part of our Complete Streets program. That's the
Right.
ultimate goal, is to tie this all in. remember, the rail's still active from
Right,
Mechanic
south of
Street
here.
south.
Right.
So there are opportunities where they sort of share the area where, you know, there are situations where they share it. They use it, I think they use it Tuesdays and Thursdays, whatever it might be, and then maybe make a connection to that Sterling area that goes in through Clinton, et cetera. But that's our main goal, is that this is so huge. This is like one of the biggest projects of the state. So main goal is to get this one done and then tie in our Complete Streets program with this.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Councilor Feckley?
So you mentioned the original train station,
Yes.
so that's going to be part of the project, because that's privately owned now, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, not part of this construction, but it's, we're anticipating what could be.
What
I mean,
could
the
be.
trail will go by, and the corridor, you know, the ownership that would be acquired from CSX does approximately grab this piece here.
Right.
So this is anticipation of what that could be. It
Okay.
doesn't guarantee exactly what's going to happen with this building, but given the development around, we thought we'd anticipate something.
Okay. And the other question I had, have any of you been involved in other rail trails in the state or outside of the state? I know there's one in Hudson that's very well, Hudson, Mass, that's very well used.
The one that David mentioned, the Nashua River Rail Trail, the 11.5 mile one, Stantec designed that
Okay.
a number of years ago now.
Yeah.
We've also, we're responsible for the rehab of the Cape Cod Rail Trail, which we worked with Brown, Richardson, and Rowe on a number of years ago. And we have a number of trails that we are team working on design for, as well as other trails that we are providing engineering design services for throughout the state.
Okay, good to know, thank you.
Councilor Nichol?
You say, got on the air here. Yeah, you say that the total project is about $14 million, and that you have 11.3, so that leaves about 2.7 to be shared by both cities, I take it.
Actually, I was a little bit off in my math when I mentioned 14 million. So if you look at the second paragraph on the summary you've been provided, speaks to some of the total numbers. The 11.3, there's 11.38 million that's coming from the state's Department of Transportation through something called Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Funding. That money intended for construction of the trail. There's approximately $2 million that Congressman Olver secured some years ago that would go toward the acquisition of the project, so taking us to 13.38 million. My office, Energy and Environmental Affairs, has set aside 2.4 million approximately for the design and engineering of the project. We need to make sure that it's going to meet federal standards, and there's a couple of bridges involved and some road crossings, so approximately $2.4 million for design and engineering, and then taking us to approximately $16 million in total. There is a little bit of additional funding we're going to be looking for from both the City of Fitchburg and the City of Leominster for the acquisition phase of the project. We're working on totaling what exactly that will be. But in total, the funding expected from other sources more in the order of 16 million rather than the 14 I previously erroneously mentioned.
Okay. Now, when we've done state highway projects, such as Mechanic Street in town, the city's been responsible for paying for the easements. So that leads to two questions. Do you have any idea how many easements will be temporary for construction versus easements that will be permanent? And then is it, once again, like the highways, is it going to be up to the city to pay for the easements?
So the acquisition here is the outright ownership, and so maybe one thing to talk about would be encroachments. So there are a couple of existing lease arrangements that CSX has with abutting property owners. We're still working through details with the Department of Transportation and with CSX on some of those. There are other encroachments by abutting property owners that are not lease arrangements, and we're working with CSX to clear those prior to the cities taking ownership of the corridor. So in this case, there will of necessity be some temporary easements for the purpose of construction, but the outright ownership at the end will rest with the cities.
Okay.
It might be good to explain this at this point. So because this is federal money, in any other kind of a situation, if somebody had an encroachment on the property, you'd be able to sort of work something out with them and say, it's okay, you know, you got your swimming pool on our property, built a shed on our property. Because it's federal money, or most of this is federal money, they will not allow any of those encroachments. Now, there are some legal encroachments that CSX is going to have to work. I think it'll be between them and the property owner on what those might be, because they actually have legal agreements with those abutters. But we're basically purchasing the whole swath, and it doesn't necessarily mean that every single inch of that, you know, some areas is it like 40 feet wide or
Yes.
something in some areas, Larry? So some areas it's actually 40 feet, but we're not going to need the whole 40 feet. And typically what happens is in our projects is you end up going on other people's property to get the work done. We pretty much should be able to stay, I mean, based on what I've seen, we should be able to stay on most of our property in most areas, but those areas where there's encroachments and there's no agreement, then those will have to be dealt with because they will not allow us to use federal money in areas where there's encroachments. So that's what makes this project unique, because it has so much of that federal money in it. It doesn't allow, there's no contingency, no waivers. This is the property and nothing else can be on it.
Councilor Nigley, you all set?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
Yeah, thank you. So the encroachments, those would have to all be resolved before the purchase was made. Is that right?
Yes, the intention is to ask CSX as a condition of the sale to deal with the encroachments. So
Okay.
we do not want to place the Commonwealth or the cities in the position of having to deal with the encroachments. One of the terms of the purchase and sale, the arrangements with CSX, the rail company, is to deal with the encroachments.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Let me just introduce Larry Casasso, who's been involved in this since day one from the city of Fitchburg. He says he's, even if he has to retire at 85, he's not leaving until this thing's ready. And also, there's a benefactor, there's a local person that's been helping us with their estate. I'll leave their name out of it, but who's been helping us with some seed money and some of the other projects. And that's really helped us in areas where we didn't have any upfront money. So I know that they're extremely happy about this project moving forward. And so Larry, again, has been, he's right in the middle of all this. And I know he's excited. But this is the closest we've ever gotten. So this is actually happening now. This is beyond the old, it could take another 5 or 10 or 20 years. So it's actually happening.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Councilor Fackley?
Can you explain just a little more the trail at roadway, where that is, and how close the roadway is to the trail, and, you know?
Sure. So, and this is one example where it's close, and that occurs, let's say, up near Blues Road. So, I just know this location.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Right, so Blues Road. So the trail could be at the back of the sidewalk with a guardrail separating it
Okay.
for short
Just
areas.
short little-
Short times. There, there will be some things, this is where the design phase to decide, that are challenges, but, that's what we're here for, is when we cross, the plaza that has the Shaw Supermarket, and that's gonna be, we'll have to figure out how to get people safely across that traffic entrance where a lot of cars are coming and going. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Dombrowski?
How are these things generally been policed so far? Or as far as with people, security, police officers?
Rail trails in general?
Yeah,
I would say a lot of times, once you put a trail in, people are there for the right reasons, so people are less likely to do illegal things on them. And it's not gonna get rid of everything.
sure.
But usually people are there for the right reason, and there's more people there at any given time. Also typically trails are non-dust trails, we don't install lights on trails, we don't want people to have, you know, the sense that it's very safe there, because it's still not safe when you're in the middle of the woods and no one's around, so. It's not, we also, I was gonna say, we install mile markers along the trail, so everyone has cell phones nowadays, they can call, let emergency services know where they are on the trail so someone could find them. There are at-grade crossings, we do different treatments to deter your everyday vehicle from trying to get onto the trail, however, police cars or maintenance vehicles, any of those type of vehicles would still be able to access the trail to get to anyone on it. So unless a community decides to, I guess, begin policing the trail regularly, it's not, you know, that's typically up to the community once the trail goes in.
Okay.
But you typically have more people there for the right reasons, so people are less likely to do illegal things.
Have you seen, like, police officers on bikes? Is
Some
that the way
communities
they've
have
been
that.
doing
I've
it?
seen them on the Minuteman, which is
Yeah.
the one in
Concord,
Arlington,
yeah.
Cambridge. I think it all depends on the community,
Okay,
what they want to do.
okay.
So the one example would be the Quequechan Trail in Fall River, not even officially open yet, but it is, the barriers have been taken down, the public is accessing it, and the city of Fall River has had bike patrol, officers on bicycles occasionally patrolling the corridor. It's really, the cities that have built trails through the program have each sort of made up their own mind as to the best solution in regard to providing security for the trail. In the case of Fall River, this trail's right downtown pretty much, and it's there providing occasional officers on bicycles patrolling.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Councilor Lanciani?
Thank you. It's been a couple of years that this has been in the making, and I've been here since in the making. And it's kind of a satisfying seat here this evening to see that some fruition is coming to that trail. I know other states have them, and they're very popular and used, and something like this, I think, would benefit both the city of Leominster and Fitchburg, and it's good to see that there is something in it, and it's coming to fruition. Naturally, money's always the big agenda, and I think that the city is going at it in the right way, and I look forward to seeing more of this before my life ends. Thank you.
You'll be right down. Should be pretty soon. Couple of shots and you'll be in good shape.
Council Nichol?
And what kind of road bed is this going to be? Is it tar?
It would be hot mix asphalt. Typically, ideally, you'd like a 12-foot trail, but depending on, you know, constraints, environmental constraints, historical constraints, any type of thing on a trail, typically they're 10 feet wide to provide dual, you know, direction and then passing capabilities by people.
And then the other thing is, I'm thinking in particular where the entrance to Water Tower Plaza is. That intersection is offset. When you come down Nelson Street, it's about 20 feet to the left of coming out of the plaza. What kind of things are you gonna do? Because that really gets to be, after a while, it's a race to see who's gonna get, you know, from Nelson Street to the lights, from the hospital, whatever, you know, and so I'm just wondering, are there like stands with push buttons that can give you pedestrian
Yep,
things?
we have a traffic engineer that is working with me on the design, and we are going through and looking at each intersection and seeing what we can do to improve them. That was one that was brought up at a couple of our coordination meetings with the team as a semi-hazardous intersection because of the offset, so we are gonna look at what we can do there for traffic calming measures and how to better control the traffic and the multi-use through that location. I'm not sure if we will put a signal there yet, but likely we will tie something in with the existing, and it would be a pedestrian push button. And I'm not sure that it would be, you know, a full stop traffic signal, it'll have to be analyzed, but there would likely be some sort of signal at that location and we would determine what the best fit would be for that application.
Okay,
I
thank you.
would just also add that we're very early in this
Yeah.
process. We're starting to think these things through, but count on, as this project advances, more specific information sessions, design meetings, as we go through the formal design process. There'll be lots of opportunity to weigh in more particularly on the details of each crossing and that sort of thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Marchian?
Just, if I may, just to build on that concept that the councilor spoke on, that's been a very dangerous intersection. And is there any hope that maybe this project will be able to help resolve the lights at that intersection in general? Because as it is right now, it's just a really tough area.
We're definitely gonna look at we would have to look at the timings of the lights and how the whole intersection's working in order to determine the best crossing for users. So I can't guarantee at this point that we're gonna fix all the lights, but we wouldn't make it any worse than it is, and we would try and come up with a solution that would improve it
Thank
ultimately.
you. Safe egress is the ultimate,
Yes,
quest with it, but
Yes.
it is a tough area.
right,
Thank you.
yep.
Nice job.
Councilor Nichol?
Just one quick thing. Councilor Marchand, when I first got on the council 25 years ago, the two of us were talking about what a great spot that would be for a rail trail. And we really were thinking more essentially the Leominster side, not even getting into Fitchburg. And then it got extended down onto Water Street in Fitchburg and eventually downtown. So, I've watched this, and when there was the washout that happened behind the steakhouse, I remember saying, Lord, what has that done to the whole thing? And I understand it took a lot of negotiating with the city attorney and the railroad to get that straightened out. But, Rick, I have to say, Councilor Marchand was great 25 years ago when we first were talking between the two of us about what an asset it would be, and I look forward to seeing it.
Ginny's is gonna have to take on a whole new adventure. I can see ice cream, hot dogs.
You bet. You bet. Happy to do it.
Any other questions or comments?
Larry, do you have anything at all? I mean, you've been involved with this at least since the beginning, so I don't know if you want to add anything.
Just to confirm that we've had a group of citizens from both cities who've been following this for 15-plus years now and hoping it would happen. And when we started the process, the gap between CSX's notion about the value of this trail and the city's appraisal was 4 to 1. They wanted 4 times as much money as it was actually worth. And it's taken this long for us to reach an agreement that, by the way, is down near our end, our initial estimate, and that everyone's really excited about it. The mayor didn't mention it, but when he did mention that we do have a benefactor who's offered to help to fund an endowment in the trail, is a former Leominster resident.
I didn't know if you wanted to be a safe
Without being
name,
specific.
so I didn't say.
So we're excited about that and the
And he
potential.
graduated with my class, our class.
Very, very excited about the potential to get and actively engage with citizens who would act as the friends of the trail, to work with the endowment that's already been created. And I know there's been conversations with a number of businesses along the trail who understand that this is a mutually beneficial sort of activity and that they therefore have already indicated their willingness to help contribute to maintaining the trail over the long haul. I know in Fitchburg that was a big concern among the city council and mayors who's going to take on the burden of maintaining the trail.
Okay. If there's no other questions, thank you all very, very much for coming. It looks like a great project, and I'm looking forward to seeing it develop even more. Thank you. How long is it gonna be? As fast as I can talk. Okay, that's good, go ahead. We're running a little behind, but as long as it's quick, we're fine. No, I can do it. We're fine.
More than it used to be. Right. Oh, absolutely more than it used to be.
All set.
Okay, so the budget part, I guess, Mr. President, you wanted to wait until the 20th, so
Right.
we'll be prepared to do a more extensive.
Okay.
As you can see in the budget, there isn't many changes, I should say, so there's not a whole lot to sort of converse about. But anyway, bring you up to speed on Slackbrook. As you remember, the council approved a match of $245,000 for that project, totaling to $700,000. And 2014, 2015 are, most of our time was spent on getting the easements and determining the property boundaries there. Much of the project is on private property. And the project went out to bid. And what happened on this project is, it went out to bid, the contractor got as far as actually staging the project. And part of what you have to do as part of the project isn't to test the soils before the project, according to their rules, but if you're going to be removing soils from the area, then it has to be tested, because the person on the other end where you're going to send that material has to know what's in that soil. So there's different places, there's different sort of landfills that you could bring it to, you can mix it with other things, so there's all kinds of things. So they did, when they were doing their initial testing, they found some smaller areas that had higher levels than normal of contaminants, mostly arsenic. Because there was nothing else up there, it's probably just natural in the ground. That's very typical, especially in areas where there's lots of stone. So the contractor kept his equipment there for some time, but long story short is, I don't believe he's interested in the project anymore. He wants a significant increase in the cost of the project, and Army Corps of Engineers is not willing to do that. So what's going to happen now is that they're going to actually, they've got the testing done, and most of the materials that's there will probably be just mixed in with the rest of the material as they're sort of stabilizing the bank, and so it's not a big deal. So some of it could be reused as part of the project, some will have to come out. But, I mean, I can't speak for the company, but there's a lot of work out there right now, and this is not a huge project. So what they're gonna try to do is get more people to bid on this project, and this is a quick project. This is not a 10-month project. This is you can see the size of it, $700,000. In today's construction world, that's not huge. So they're gonna put the project back out to bid, and hopefully stay within that $700,000 range. And again, most of the material that's there will remain there. Any questions on that so far? Just to give you a quick update on the Drake House. As you remember, the City Council appropriated the funding for that project, and all of the asbestos has been removed, and that came in, the bids came in well on that, and now the bids just came in. We had 3 bidders, which was really good, and that will basically stabilize the balloon of the building. That will get us our roof stabilized, that will take on those additions to the property that were put over the years, and it will pretty much get us a building that's in decent shape, and it looks a whole lot like what it was supposed to look in the day. So that's going along really well. 3rd Street Playground, and again, I'll get into as much detail as you want, I'm just trying to give you an overview, because I know when budget season starts, and that's gonna last for 2 weeks, probably a lot of this won't be integrated into it, but again, I can come back towards the beginning of July. The 3rd Street Playground, huge hit. I mean, we had to hold the kids off for a little while the material, the soft, spongy surface on the ground that absorbs the impact when the kid comes off of the playground equipment, dried. But I gotta tell you, the kids were really good. I mean, a couple days we had to go over and ask them to, get off some of the equipment because it just wasn't set yet. But they were really anxious. Please remember, it used to be Spruce Street School and Whitney Field. Those are the 2 places in the last 50 years that kids on French Hill had a chance to play. Well, Whitney Field's been gone for 40 years, and Spruce Street's been gone for about the same. So those kids have actually been playing in the street up there. Literally, it's, car coming, move all the equipment, hockey nets, whatever, soccer balls, move it to the side of the road. And they were actually playing, and a lot of them on the grass at the high rise at 161, which upset a lot of the people that were there. and they play around the cars. But they actually have a place. The place has been full. I don't care if you go by, it's raining out, you go by, kids are playing, it's got a little water park, and it's really a big hit. I mean, it's a huge hit. It's high volume, and as I explained to you, out of our free cash, remember we allocated X amount of dollars to have a little extra maintenance in those areas. So we've actually hired people to come in at different times of the day, sort of those strategic times of the day, where we've had extra help, some part-time help to come in and just help to clean the area, keep it up, make sure the equipment's in good shape. But I've gone down there almost every night, and it's in good shape, and the kids, I mean, some nights I think if we had a huge light out there, they'd stay there all night, they're so excited, so that's gone very well. As you remember, we got a grant to purchase the Wilmette property, and that's the property that had the house on it next to the rectory at St. Cecilia's. Our DPW can actually say now that they have their first demo under their belt. Had the building down by about 11 o'clock in the morning, was it? About 11 in the morning, building was down. And we worked with DEP on removing some of the trees in the back, but basically if you go down there between Wells Court, 10 Wells Court, and some land that we own on Spruce Street, that whole area now belongs to the city, and we'll start to work on the final plans, or at least the preliminary design of what that park can look like. And so we have a couple of different concepts of what that might look like, but now that the kids actually have a place to play, they're very excited about throwing a frisbee around, throwing a ball around, and they can envision, now they can stand at the peak of the hill there and look down and see what we're trying to do. And so they're very excited about this, and everybody in the neighborhood is, so it's and in the community as well, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. Moose Brook, remember, over here behind the Ryan Time, that's phase one. Second section of this is the easements that are before you tonight, and we'll be proceeding with construction hopefully by summer. And the project cost, again, as you know, phase two is about almost $1 million. So that's a big project for us. And the complete streets, we received a $50,000 grant from MassDOT, and we've hired a traffic person. He's a traffic engineer. He's done work for us in the past. And what we'll be doing is formulating that master plan. And some of the things that we're looking for immediately, the things that'll be on the top of the list are some of the areas around town, if you look, they don't have that more modern area for people with physical disabilities that might be in a wheelchair or a scooter or some other mechanism. And you'll see it, it's usually yellow and bright, and it's usually that rubberized, and it has the little sort of bubbles in it, so that, So anyway, a lot of areas in town, we've made them handicap accessible, but not to the most modern stages. So that's our first goal, is to make sure that we're compliant with ADA, starting from downtown and working our way out. Then eventually we'll look at our whole street plan and really try to tie in, as I said a little earlier, tie in all of our streets so that they have bike areas. As you know, up at the Lindell and Abbott, there's sort of a bike lane there, and then all of a sudden it stops because it was part of that project with the lights. So as we do our streets over, new construction, and part of the complete streets, we'll be adding those lanes to just about every main road in the city. That's our overall goal, to begin with. So anyway, in October, we'll be eligible to apply for up to $400,000. And it will fund our priority list. We'll sort of go to high priority, low priority. Number of things that are on the agenda for the first time. As you know, again, I'll be back here on the 20th, so we can discuss that, but if there's a subcommittee meeting prior to that, we'd be glad to attend. Matters before the city council. Tonight is the JAG grant, and that's something that we apply for every year. That's the Justice Grant. I think that's just something we apply for every year. That's pretty straightforward. It's $23,927,000 from the Department of Justice. So that's pretty much, everything's going well. The Fornia Field Park is just, you got a warm day and you're talking hundreds of kids out there having a ball. Barrett Park is a huge success. All of our parks, as I said to you before, early in the season, I anticipated hundreds to attend our parks and our trails, and everything's going well. We're bringing in, we estimate that we're bringing in about 2,500 people, probably from the outside, per weekend day, just to travel to places like Shoaling, to go to places like Barrett, and to use our trails. The trails have become a huge hit in our open space in our land. And the historic interest in the town is pretty much off the charts. The history is really, really kicking in. It's taken some time to sort of happen, but more and more people that are coming to town who are interested in reading the monuments, we see them out here all the time, interested in the history of the city. They're at Carter Park all the time. Concerts on the Carter Park every Thursday night. Colonial Band concerts will kick in on Tuesday. The stroll is this weekend. The following weekend is the Long Show, which is bigger, and the route has changed. Anybody needs a copy of it? Who has that? Kelly had it. So we'll get you a copy of the new route. But all of these things are gelling. The Beer Fest will be bigger and larger than ever. So all of these things are really beginning to gel, and we're bringing in a lot of people that are coming from the outside. And it's the sort of same thing. One of the things with our rail trail that's different than others, most others are in areas that are heavily wooded and very rural. Our rail trail has a multiplier. And that's like, most of our projects that we've done and our festivals and other things are really have a multiplier. They're bringing in people from other towns, they're staying here, eating at our restaurants, shopping at our businesses. And that's really been a success, and something that we've seen in the last year and a half, 2 years, really beginning to gel. It's taken some time, but with the Drake House, and some of the, it's so amazing to see all the kids that come in from the schools. Started out, was it 3rd grade, did it start, 4th grade? And it's really now the 3rd graders want to go on the historic tour. And they come here, they start off at City Hall, members of the Historic Commission break up into little groups, and they tour all the historic buildings in the downtown. Next year they'll expand to the Drake House. They go all over, and they're so excited. We're now down to the 2nd graders, who are amazing, intelligent, amazing, well-behaved, and they just are so fascinated with real history. They learn history in books. We have history right here, and it's pretty exciting. So, having said that, thank you for all your help. I just wanted to update you. The money that you appropriate, well used. It's happening. Sometimes not as quick as we want it to happen, but I think just drive around town and you can see the results. So pretty exciting time. And then just a good economic time. Tons of projects I'll be back to share with you on. They're really exciting. Just keep the fingers crossed. The economy holds out and steadily gets improves. The economy tanked in 08. It's been a slow dig out, but it's happening, and we're pretty excited about it.
Okay.
Any questions on anything before I leave? Okay.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you. Okay. Councilor Dombrowski, I believe we have a 6 o'clock hearing on 62-16.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Petition 62-16, Glenn Canario Southwind Limited. Amend the license for 272 Nashua Street to allow the storage of 12 above-ground storage tanks with a total of 191,000 gallons and 250,000 one-gallon bottles of Class 3B combustible liquid. This is a hearing before the City Council. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
You could just introduce yourselves, please.
I'm Glenn Canario, General Manager at Southwind.
I'm Joe Roman, Position Supervisor.
Okay, I think at the initial public hearing, there was some concerns raised by the Director of the Health Department.
Right.
And we just had asked you guys to address those, so if you want to, let me know what you've done.
Since that meeting, I called him, and he was under the impression that we're putting in all new tanks. And I explained to him that nothing has changed. All our equipment is the same. The only amendment is to allow for the 5 rail cars that we store in the back on our permit. So when I explained that to him, he told me he was okay with that.
Okay. Any questions from councilors?
If I may,
Council Marshall?
I don't think that really answered any of the questions, Mr. Chairman, that we had at the last meeting. It was about safety compliance. It was about prevention compliance. It was about the implementation of a state-of-the-art system, if in fact it didn't exist. I appreciate the friendly, gesture made by the department head. However, my concerns are a lot bigger than that kind of a response to the questions we had at the last meeting, with all due respect.
And your concerns, Council Marchand, are those that are contained in the Board of Health letter?
Pretty much so, and then the ones that we derived from the information that we came up with after was discussed here on the floor, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
If through the chair, if we can address some of those issues, if you're going to address them, and you were here at the meeting, so you heard the questions raised.
Right, and the questions that, what I understood was for the state-of-the-art leak detection, which was a concern of Mr. Knuth. And when I spoke to him, he said if we were putting in new equipment, that they would need that new state-of-the-art stuff. Our existing tanks are surrounded by containment walls.
Right.
So if any leak happens, it's all contained. So we won't get out of the building and get
Right,
fine.
okay, so with all due respect, I appreciate, you sharing that. From my position, when we have people come down here for questions such as what you have raised with us, so I'm a little dry, I apologize. We have to have some type of a plan, and at least some type of an engineering plan on how you can share with us. And if you have something like that, I think that might be helpful.
I don't have that, but I can work one out for you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me just go to legal affairs first. Council Frida, anything else? Council Bedanza?
Yeah, I think the last time, if I remember correctly, I had asked you about how much of the 191,000 gallons was actually in rail cars.
It's approximately 150,000, and that's if we have 5 rail cars that are all full.
But am I correct to assume that some of this is stored in rail cars and some of it is still stored in tanks that are in that property?
Correct.
And how much of that 150,000 gallons is actually in rail cars?
That would be the capacity of the 5 rail cars that we may have on the plant.
So what you're coming to do is really to license something that hasn't been licensed in the past, which is the rail cars themselves.
Right.
So, as far as you're concerned, you have a license for the stuff that's in the building,
Correct.
but you don't have a license for the stuff that's essentially being stored in rail cars.
Right.
How long has that been so? How long has this type of gallonage been in rail cars?
It's been there for 20 years.
These are rail cars that your company owns?
Some of them we own and some of them are suppliers.
Now, what kind of safety mitigation is connected to these rail cars?
We have I think I explained last time, a triple stop system where the hoses have end caps on them. There's a backflow preventer so the product can't siphon out, and then we have blocking ball valves. We have actually padlocks.
Is there a plan if there was a release from that tank? I mean, if it leaked or ruptured, is there some kind of a plan?
The other plan is if we have a leak more than 100 pounds, to contact the DEP.
These rail cars are obviously outside of tracks, right?
Yes.
So there's a spur track there? How many gallons are stored inside?
The methanol we store up to, and then we have 4 other tanks that each are 6,000 gallons, which we store propylene glycol.
So the great majority of the product is stored in these rail cars outside.
Right, but we don't always have the 5 rail cars there, we'll try to say.
It's sort of a rotating inventory.
Right.
So the worst case scenario is it would be, under this plan, 150,000 gallons of these rail cars.
Right.
That's the most it could be.
Right.
But if one of those, what are the age of these rail cars? Do we know anything about them? I mean,
I know they're all inspected every couple of years, and they really have to pass those inspections prior to being in service.
is there any kind of insurance coverage to cover an eventuality of a spill or a rupture for these? That's all the questions I have.
You know what might be helpful? If you could just give us a general overview of exactly how the business functions. you know, what exactly it is you're doing, who your customers are, why there's a need for the rail cars, how you get deliveries, how you make deliveries.
Okay.
I think an overview might be very beneficial.
We make windshield wash. Our customers are a lot of the major auto supply stores, like Napa, O'Reilly's, that kind of thing. Home Depot, the customer, Walmart's customer, Lowe's, Market Basket. So we have a lot of customers. And what happens is we get the methanol in on rail cars or tankers. We pump the rail car into a holding tank in the building, and then we blend it with water and some other ingredients. And then the product, the finished goods, is stored in our warehouse. Not for very long, typically we have a small warehouse, so we pretty much make it work.
And then what's the process for you ultimately distributing it from your warehouse?
We have a carrier that will deliver some, but mostly Walmart will pick up their own. Most customers pick up their own on trailer trucks.
And when they pick up their own, what are they being transported in?
A trailer truck.
Okay, but are they individual?
Yes, 6-gallon bottles in a case.
Okay,
You know, if you go into Walmart, you'll see them right on the floor in Walmart.
okay, and all that takes place inside the warehouse?
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other counselors have any questions or follow-up? Counselor?
So
Good answer.
what's stored outside of these rail cars is methanol.
Right.
So one of the risks there is flammability, I would assume. And so nothing else is stored outside besides the methanol.
No, depending on the season, we'll store propylene glycol or glycerin that's used in pool on our vehicles.
Are those in rail cars as well, or those?
Yeah, what came to light when the fire department was in, if we have a rail car there, if I can turn the rail car in 2 days, I don't need to permit. So we just wanted to be safe and say.
That doesn't always happen.
Right, and if we have 5 rail cars there, according to the fire department, I have to just pick that number and assume that all 5 are there and they're full.
Counselor Zephyr?
Yeah, thank you. Just to follow up, to clarify, so your raw material is stored outside, some of your raw material is stored outside in these tanker cars, and then it's brought inside, so you have a manufacturing facility, so you actually produce these bottles and then you store them in your warehouse?
Right.
Okay, so it's manufacturing with external storage. Okay. Thank you, that's all, I just wanted to.
Any other counselors? Counselor Feckley?
So I just wanted a little bit more information about how the methanol gets from the tanker to the processing and that must be covered under certain restrictions too, that you have to do it a certain way, so
Yeah,
that it doesn't leak out in between. Is, like the length, how far does it travel before it's safely contained, I guess is my question, and how it gets there.
On our piping system,
Mm-hmm.
if we were the furthest rail car away, it'd be the length of 5 rail cars.
Okay.
And what we do is we, instead of pumping from the bottom of the rail car, we pump from the top, put the hose in, just so to prevent any spills from having to pump.
And there has to be obviously a seal on the rail car that, what, is the pump made out of rubber or metal or?
We have an air pump like scale, which is in the building.
Okay. Thanks.
Council President?
Yeah, I just have a question. If this material was to leak, what is the cleanup process? I thought a few years back when we had a leak, doesn't most of it dissipate on its own? So what else would we have to do besides let it dissipate on its own?
Well, we have to contact the fire department, actually, the TEP, and they'll come out and they'll do a soil sample.
Did you get anything in writing from Christopher Knuth regarding this, or was it verbal?
It was verbal, and then I sent him a letter, and he said he was gonna send something over to you.
Yeah, I think I didn't see anything else come down with you. No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council Nichol?
I wasn't here at the original hearing, so I need your help. What building is it?
272 National Street.
Give me an idea of which one that is.
You know UPS's?
Yeah,
We're next door,
to the right?
to the right.
Okay. A couple of things are in my mind. I can remember back in the 60s, one of the trains jumped the tracks, and a boxcar ended up on the roof of that building. Because there's quite a little drop from the railroad tracks down to the level of the ground. The other thing is, how far away from the tracks is the siding going to be? We've got commuter rail people going back and forth, coming into town, going out of town. I can remember one night, many years ago, sitting at North Leominster at the fire station there, and counting about 140 cars going at a pretty good clip, heading back east and using those tracks. So I'm concerned about what the possibility of having something like that happen again, plus the volatility. What's the volatility like on this material? You're saying methane in it?
It's methanol.
Ethanol. Oh, okay, well, that's not much better, but what's the distance between a size, you have a size spur, or you're going to, I
No,
assume?
it's all there, it's all, this is nothing new, it's all been there for years.
Okay, so what's the difference, the distance between that and the tracks? Regular tracks, any idea?
50 feet. You know, with a track, yes, it's,
Okay, you know, because I happen to represent the ward, and I know we have restaurants down there, we have other buildings, but we still have 2 or 3 houses, maybe 4, and they seem to be in good shape that would be opposite side of the street, so, all right, I'll have to think about this a little bit longer before I'm ready to go one way or the other, but, yeah, that was just something I'm gonna bring up, because I am concerned that it takes one good train accident, and if those cars get plowed into it, it could be, I think, pretty bad, yeah. So, I guess relating back to Councilor Redanza, what, the fire chief seems to be okay with it, but what kind of a containment is it gonna be? You know, if there were permanent tanks, that would be one thing. But what kind of containment is there gonna be around these cars? You're saying perhaps as many as 5. What is there to, fire suppression or whatever like that?
we don't have fire suppression up there.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Council's at 50.
I just want to clarify something. So on the license application, it says number of tanks required above ground 12. Total capacity of above ground tanks in gallons, 191,000. Total capacity of underground in gallons, 250,000 gallons in bottles. So this.
Well, that's not underground, that's,
No? That's what the license says.
Right.
Oh, that's what the application says.
right, that's just, the bottles is finished goods inventory.
Finished goods inventory, so that's not underground?
No, nothing's underground.
Okay, so, okay, so I'm confused, because this says number of tanks required above ground 12, but we're here discussing 5 railroad cars, so.
The original license
Mhm.
licensed the tanks that were in the building.
Right.
I had the fire department in last year,
Mhm.
and the fire marshal, and he informed me that if we have rail cars outside that sit there for more than 2 days, they need to be considered a storage tank.
Okay, I'm still confused, because where does
I
this?
think what he's trying to say is you have 5 outside the building, 4
Right.
inside. So is that what it
Well,
was?
good. Yeah, the 3 that we put methanol in, and 4 other tanks. But I had to total all that up for the application.
How many tanks inside the building?
7 total.
So you got 12 total.
Right.
7 times 12.
7 inside and 5 outside.
Do the tanks inside hold the same, are they at the same capacity as the outside rail cars?
No, we have one tank that holds 10,000 gallons, two that hold up to 6,000 gallons of blended product. And then there are 4 tanks that we use for when we're batching, blending.
And that's all inside?
It's all inside.
Right. So the outside railroad cars, what is their capacity?
29,000 or 30,000 gallons
Each?
Are you good, Counselor Zephyr?
I am.
Okay, Counselor Bedanski?
Just,
Still confused.
I might have neglected to ask you this. How long have you been doing it this way with the outside rail cars being used for storage? So for 14 years, this is the condition that's existed there.
Right.
And the only reason you're down here, frankly, is because the fire department said, wait a minute, this system really needs to be licensed in total with the rail cars being considered as part of your storage.
Right.
If I could just inquire, is there anybody in the public who wishes to address the council on this petition? Second time, anybody in the audience wish to address the council on this petition? Third and final time, anyone in the audience wish to address the council on this petition? Any further questions or comments from councilors? Mr. President, I could just do a quick bit of committee work?
Sure.
I personally am inclined to go along with this, but I would like to see a confirmation from Mr. Knuth. I guess it was supposed to come down, but hasn't come down yet. So, question to the councilors, to the subcommittee members, should we close this public hearing tonight, or actually continue the public hearing to get the letter from Mr. Knuth, which is what I think is appropriate, or close the meeting tonight? Council Marshall?
My position on this is I appreciate, the presentation. It appears as though it's a housekeeping matter, just to get in compliance with what is actually happening on the site. I would feel more confident after we qualified some of our questions with Mr. Knuth specifically that were asked at the last meeting, and maybe the fire department, if they want to weigh into some of the concerns we have. This isn't going to, through the chair, this isn't going to impede your production, correct?
Nope.
All right, so it's a housekeeping situation. We're not going to hurt the company. It's still in production. I would just feel very comfortable qualifying the fact that we're in good standing as far as what the action steps are, or the ones that are lacking, if they're even necessary.
Okay.
And, I'm not an expert on it, Mr. Chairman, but I certainly would like to have that sense of confidence before taking this to a vote.
No, I think that's a good point. Council Peter?
I tend to agree with that.
Okay. I see the clerk giving me the hairy eyeball. What, is there any concern over there?
No.
No?
Mr. Knuth is going to be out for several weeks,
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
so you might want to deal with the fire department instead of
All right. Well,
The fire department may take care of our needs.
yeah. Council Bedanski?
Hasn't the fire department already weighed in?
Yeah, they've already,
Really, what
they've
you're
already
looking
cleared this.
for, from Mr. Knuth, is just to confirm that he now realizes that the 5 exterior tanks can't have the modern conveniences, I guess, of this containment, because first of all, they're rail cars, right? And they're outside, and they're existing for 14 years. So all we're gonna get out of Mr. Knuth ultimately is a confirmation and a conversation, nothing more. And I can't imagine that's gonna change much. I mean, the fire department's already ruled on it. It seems like the big risk here is flammability and methanol, and they've already passed judgment on it. So I think, if your committee requires Mr. Knuth to confirm that, he's gonna be gone for a while. It's a qualitative decision. Do you wanna wait? I mean, they've been doing it for 14 years.
Yeah,
It's not gonna, even if we put it off a few meetings, it's not gonna change anything. if you
No,
feel more comfortable
Yeah.
getting
So-
Mr. Knuth to confirm it.
If I could just bring us back to the floor. We're not in a debate right now, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the comments made. So I just want to point, and I understand the situation with Mr. Knuth. We don't want to compromise your production. It sounds like we're not. But, specifically the recommendation dated May 19, 2016, I'll go down to the third paragraph, and, we have to be responsible in our position on this, and it does state, sir, that the company has had a history of methanol releases from tanker railroad cars and from their processing equipment as well. Over the years, the health department has been contacted by the MADEP about several of these. I just want to make sure
Can I
that,
just mention something?
well, if I may, I just want to make sure that we're in good shape as far as like how we can prevent that, and also what the standards are as far as being able to resolve when in fact it does happen. So I'm just going, based on that piece right there.
Right, but that, what he's referring to is we did have that spill, the original one, and then the other ones he's mentioning is there was a supplier who came to our, to deliver methanol to a tanker truck. And their equipment failed. It wasn't our equipment, it was their equipment, and that vendor is no longer allowed on our property.
Okay,
But I'm just gonna go back to it one more time.
I got you.
There was a time in the city of Leominster where we had a manufacturing process for polyvinyl chloride. And in some cases, there were states in the United States of America that did not even allow that chemical to be transported through a railroad process, and we manufactured it here in the city of Leominster. We've had problems with toxic legacy. We don't want another one to happen.
I understand.
But and beyond that, as far as like the fire department's pieces and everything, we're talking about flammable liquid. And, and I appreciate the fact you're making windshield wash, that's a great thing. But it's probably not that dangerous, but the processing itself becomes a concern. So that's why it's one of the checks and balances I have personally in dealing with it.
All right.
So, thank you.
Given that it's not going to impact the petitioner's business, we'll err on the side of caution. We're going to keep the public hearing open. And, Madam Clerk, we could have I guess we're going to be looking at early August?
We can do July.
We can do July?
It doesn't
Okay.
hurt anything.
So we've got a hearing date in July?
We can do either July 11th or July 25th.
What's better for you, gentlemen?
I think I'm on vacation July 25th, so July 11th.
July 11th? Okay.
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
July 11th.
July 11th, 7. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
Next one.
Yeah, hearing before the city council at 6:15 on 50-16, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Whitney, can you come in? Petition 50-16, James Whitney. Rezone parcels 503-3-1, 503-3-2, 503-3-3, 503-3-4, 503-3-5 at the entryway of Southgate Business Park to mixed use from industrial. This is petition 50-16. Mr. Whitney, if you could just introduce yourself and your associate.
Hi, my name is Jim Whitney. I represent Southgate Business Park, and this is my daughter Nicole Whitney.
Okay. You want to just give us a quick overview?
Yeah. We got this, if you remember correctly, we got this park approved back in, God, I think it was 2005 now. And it's about approximately 50 acres of land. And what we're looking to do is, the front section, it's kind of hard to follow on here. It would be in the greenish color, right in here. This is where the road comes off of Route 12. Comes in, cul-de-sac, and then there's going to be another piece of the road go out to Willard Street. This is the original subdivision plan, I don't know if you can see it, but pretty much. This was the layout of the park that we had envisioned back then to have some commercial uses up front here, and as you get deeper into the park, more heavy manufacturing, and then maybe some lighter uses coming back out onto Willard Street. So this zoning change that we're looking for is to allow some of the commercial uses up towards the front that would service the people that are in the park and in the residential piece across the street in Sterling.
Okay. Could you flip it back over, if you don't mind? Now, is it the, sort of the blue area, is that the, that's the area you're looking to rezone?
Yeah. So that
Okay,
would be to MU1. The MU1 exists right here in this color here.
okay. Okay, the only question I have is, and it might be a question for Copeland and Page, but I know the city was a party to the grant that, way back when.
Yeah.
You know, by changing the zoning, is the city running afoul of the grant language? That would be my only issue. I don't know if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, no, we had already checked. It's got nothing to do with it.
Okay,
Because the city pieces are, the piece has already been turned over to the city, the roadway.
Yeah.
Which was what the grant was for.
right, the roadway was for the grant was for the roadway, that's
Right.
correct.
So that's a public way now.
Okay. I'll go to legal affairs first, Counselor Marchand.
Just a few questions, Jim. Nicole, nice to see you down here. A few questions. This is not coming onto Central Street, this is coming off the back onto, just for clarification on that?
This piece is coming off of Central Street.
It's coming off of Central, that's the rezone area?
Correct.
Okay, all right. How does this affect your butter, the residential property that's on Central Street right now? I believe there's a house there, there was an auto store.
Yeah, that's
The
in
gentleman-
Sterling.
That's in Sterling, but, I mean, they are your abutter, right?
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Has
they're
it-
the abutter to the Sterling piece. So they're between the road, the public way, and then this land would be on the opposite side of the street. So
Okay.
they actually sit right here.
Okay. All right. Can you disclose some of the concepts you're thinking about? Not necessarily names of companies, but, you know, you're looking at a restaurant, you're looking at a hotel, you're looking at,
The uses that we've had show
Yeah,
up
yeah.
were coffee shops, drive-through coffee shops, banks, small bank location, a commercial tire retailer that would fall underneath that zone. So service people that would service the everyday people who are
Right.
coming in and out.
right, okay. And how big is the piece you actually want to rezone?
Which was it, 12 acres?
Yeah, it's almost 12 acres.
Altogether, it's 12 acres. It's the front piece. The park is pretty much split up by the wetlands,
Yeah,
which is right in here. So it's pretty much the front piece,
okay, so when you're going into the park, it's right there.
right there on the right-hand side.
On the right-hand side,
Yeah, and then you're gonna get down a little bit further, there's one parcel on the left-hand side.
okay, all right. As far as the access road, the road that was designed was basically for manufacturing, trucks and things like that.
Yeah, it
the
was the-
entrance and everything.
Yeah.
When you get into the commercial, you probably have, obviously, the traffic flow may be significantly larger
And when we,
in manufacturing.
when we permitted the park and we went through MIPA, we actually had discussions about a light being put in at the intersection of Route 12, but we don't meet the warrant. So until you meet the warrant coming in and out, they won't even talk to us about doing a light. So what we're gonna do is, after the residential piece is built in Sterling and some of the park is built, then we can do a traffic study again and then apply for a light.
We had a fatality there in close proximity.
Years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was a tragedy.
Yeah, that's right, when we were first permitting it.
Yeah. So with the increase in foot traffic, we'll call it, you know, using the mixed-use pieces in there, you don't see that being a problem as far as getting in and out of the park without lights right now?
No, and there's nothing we can do about it. We wanted to put a light in.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let us. They won't even discuss it until you meet a warrant, because what they say is that they're gonna set the timing.
Sorry about that.
That's right. They'll set the timing at the Willard Street lights, and that'll affect the entering and exiting of people coming out of the park. And
Okay.
until that starts to be a problem, then we'll jump up to be able to put a light in.
Okay, hey, as far as the abutters are concerned, you have what I still refer to as ABC.
Mhm.
and then you have the industrial park in Jitech.
Correct.
Have you approached the abutters to see what their position was on going to this concept?
We've had discussions with LKQ, and
Yeah,
they have no problems with it.
no
at
issue
all.
with it?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Counselor Frida, anything?
Is one of your sites, are you talking about a marijuana facility in there at some point?
We've had discussions with people on it. We don't have any leases signed or anything like that for
But
it.
that would be further in the back?
Yes.
Can you show us where in the back that would be, roughly?
We looked up in this area right up in here, and possibly right in here.
And you obviously haven't had much success in attracting any industrial tenants.
No, until we found that when we put the road in with the state of the economy, until people were done buying up the Jitech Park buildings of the world, no one was gonna build anything new. So we've noticed a lot more people in the last 6 months that are interested in doing something, but it's been more on the office end of it than it has on the manufacturing end.
And the road that was constructed, that's the only access in and out to all that land?
Right, we got a certain amount of money from the state through the grants, and we did what we had, spread it out as far as we could. So that brought us to the first intersection. And then we were gonna, once we built some of the park, we were gonna apply to get the rest of it.
Okay. And that's how wide is that road?
Well, it's a 60-foot paved way. It's
Yeah.
got a center island in it.
Yeah, okay. And as far as the residential piece in Sterling, are there sidewalks
Yes,
on the road? I thought there were, yeah.
both sides.
Both sides, okay. And they go all the way up?
Yep.
Okay. Are there any other counselors who have any questions or comments, Mr. President?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just trying to envision, what this might look like once it's built out. So there's 5 parcels of land that you're looking to rezone. Are we talking maybe one of these types of businesses that you were talking about per parcel, or?
No, well, the way this is lit, when we got it approved, we had to break up the land
Yeah.
into a certain amount of parcels. We can further divide those up depending on what somebody needs, what their use is. So it could be 5 pieces, it could be 10 pieces. Depends on what the parking requirements are gonna be with drives,
Right.
how many lots it's gonna be.
Okay.
So I envision putting on the first parcel on the right when you come in, some sort of a strip mall type use where a coffee shop could go in, or a cleaners, or different kind of uses like that.
Okay. So when you drive into Research Drive, it's to the right,
Correct.
correct? So from that corner heading toward Leominster.
Yeah, well, it's on the right, and then there's one parcel here that a building could go on. This piece here is pretty much the detention basin for the entire park.
Okay.
So it's pretty much just this front piece is right here.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other counselor? Is there any member of the audience who wishes to address the council on this petition? Second call, any member of the audience wish to address the council? Third and final call, is there any member of the audience who wishes to address the council? Okay, we did receive a unanimous recommendation from the planning board to grant this petition. I don't believe there were any other recommendations that were sought for.
Zoning board.
Zoning board, okay. Okay. We have a letter dated May 18th, 2016 from Stephen A. DeCarolis, Chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The ray line is petition 50-16, James Whitney. Dear Ms. Bouchard, the zoning board members have reviewed the request made by the Legal Affairs Committee for recommendation regarding the above captioned petition. The applicant states that he would like to rezone the front parcels to bring in business that will serve the industrial uses in the back. At this point, that argument is meritless because there are no industrial tenants. When property is transferred, that acquisition implies that the buyer will abide by the pertinent and prevailing zoning ordinances governing the ownership of that property. This petition has the potential to allow the practice of spot zoning, and therefore the board is strongly against the rezoning of these parcels. Have you seen this letter?
No.
Yeah. Why don't we pass that up too? Everyone have a chance to look at that.
Unanimously.
Any other counselors wish to add anything? Counsel Frida?
Well, I do know that a lot of areas in different parts of the state are allowing mixed use in a development like that. But I think we do need to get a clarification of the spot zoning. It was brought up by the zoning board. I think we need to get a legal opinion. I don't know that it is, but I think before we do anything, we need to get a legal opinion.
I think there's mixed use right next door, if I'm not mistaken.
I'd love to comment. This is not even, it's not even in the realm of the discussions we're having here about this.
Counsel Bedanza?
I certainly don't want to dissuade anybody's thought process, but it clearly abuts the MU1 zone that's described on the map. I don't want to spend the money for a legal opinion.
Yeah.
Just don't. It's a non-starter.
I don't disagree, that I don't think it is either. But I think if we then go back to the zoning board and ask where their opinion comes from. I mean, I think we need to have a clarification with the zoning board or a legal opinion. I don't think it's gonna cost, we send a lot of things to the attorney that are not even close to something important. Let's just cover ourselves and get an accurate opinion.
I'm sorry, I just think it's elementary. Just abuts an MU1 zone. I mean, it's a
No, I don't disagree.
Counsel Zephyr?
Yep. My question really has to do with the original grant, that was for the industrial park. And that, I wasn't on the council at the time, but subsequent, kind of follow-up. I remember that there were a certain number of jobs that were supposed to be created. They were supposed to be industrial jobs. So my question for Copeland and Page, which I think is very important, is to make sure that we are not, in violation of that grant. I know that the road is built. I know that the city owns it. But that was federal money and state money, I believe, that was given, for the development specifically of the industrial park. So if Copeland and Page says, that's not a problem, for whatever, their rationale is, I'm fine with that, but I think it's important to ask that question.
Mr. President?
Yeah, thank you. I want to go on record too of echoing Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr's comments about that. I can't remember if this was a Moore grant or a PWED grant. Or was it both?
It was
PWED? PWED?
It was both.
It was both.
Or both?
It was both.
And both the state grants, not federal.
Okay. Yeah, so I would like to see too, if there was any, I think the whole point of those grants was for industrial, to promote industrial growth. And I just want to make sure that we're not sort of violating anything or, jeopardizing any of the grant that want us to pay it back or any future grants or anything like that. Maybe too, there's a statute of limitations, I don't know, but I'd certainly be more interested to spend money on an opinion about that than I would be about the spot zoning, considering that it abuts MU1 already. So, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Council Fleckley?
Mr. Winnie, how much traffic goes down that road on a daily basis, would you say?
Well,
No, that road that goes into the industrial park.
oh, I have no idea.
I mean, is it busy? Is it?
Well, there's nothing.
There's nothing there, so there's nothing, so there's
No.
nobody now.
More people than I'd like to see go down there. After I clean up after them.
Yeah, so if I'm standing on Route 12 and I'm looking at that road, would I be able to see what you're building there? Is it
Sure.
going to be plainly, like the signs?
In the MU1 or the
Yeah.
whole park?
No, the MU1, what you're asking for.
Oh, yeah, you'd see it right
That
on
blue
the
section.
right-hand side. It's right there as soon as you pull in.
So it'd be something that people would constantly see going up and down 12
Sure.
and,
Yep.
okay.
There could be a car wash go in there, and it's very visible.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And if I could, I spent a lot of time with the grants when we were going through this. It took years to apply. If you get any questions, I understand you want to call Kaufman and Page, but you should call the state too, that dealt with the department that dealt with them. Because over the years, there have been plenty of people from the area that have called to see if they could get the grants retracted because of jobs and other things that weren't done, and they have all the answers for them.
Right. Thank you.
We've been through it all. Well seasoned. But if you could, and a comment on the zoning board, if you're gonna get this, if there's gonna be a hearing again on, if you're gonna keep this open, or I would like to have the zoning board come down to, because some of the questions that are even on it, when property is transferred, that acquisition implies that the buyer will abide by the pertinent prevailing zoning. I don't even understand where he's going with that, where when the zoning is, whatever zoning is there, it's gonna be, no one's bought this property yet, so this, the zoning that's gonna be there is gonna be whatever is approved.
Council Zephyr?
Yep. One thing, when I read that, we've had other people come down looking for parcels to be rezoned, you know, from some kind of residence to commercial. And we have turned those down, and we've been very respectful of, you know, the way that the zoning is done. So I think that that's what that in part, and I'm not going to speak for the zoning board, but it just seems to me that was a point that he was making, is that, you know, land is zoned for particular use, and, you know, should be used that way, for the original zoning. I mean, I understand what you're trying to do here, I understand you're, you know, abutting MU1, but I think that, I just want to put that out there. Zoning changes are not taken like, you know, we've had a few down here when I've been on the council, and they're very, very tough decisions, you know, that we're asked to make. And I just want to put that out there. Zoning changes are just not, you know, simple things to be done.
Sure. And the reason that we're down here asking for it, this is probably something that should have been put in the original zoning, with the zoning when it was changed. If you look at the parks that are around, take Tech Park, for instance. As soon as the economy goes down, you have one type of use that's in there, industrial. And then you've got building after building after building that's not full, and the place looks abandoned, and the buildings aren't being kept up. Where if you have multiple uses, one carries the other through different times. And that's what we want to do here. We don't want to have a park that's sitting there when an economy goes down and there's one type of use in it. This is a live, work, play area down here, and it should have all the uses in it from the research that we've done.
Council Frida?
We also have a letter from the building inspector. Did you read that one?
No, I didn't.
I'm in receipt of a letter dated April 27, 2016, requesting my recommendation on petition 50-16 to rezone parcels 503-3-1, 503-3-2, 503-3-3, 503-3-4, and 503-3-5 at the entryway of the Southgate Business Park to mixed use from industrial. It's my recommendation that these parcels be rezoned to mixed use in order to better conform to the surrounding area. So you got one body in the city saying that it's spot zoning. You have a planning director, a building inspector, who's saying it'll conform. So, I mean, I think we need to get, I support it, but I'm gonna stick to my request to get a legal opinion. We have different opinions all over the offices.
Any other comments or questions? Council Nichols?
Yes. You know, we received a letter from the planning board, but the famous line is, the planning board is permitted uses. So I've seen more than a few times when the planning board and the ZBA didn't agree, and there was some negotiation back and forth. But at the same time, it is a zoning issue. The zoning board, to me, carries a little more precedence than the planning board. So I agree with Councilor Frida. I think we need to get some more information from Copeland and Page, either in the form of a ruling or have them down, whatever it takes, so that we make sure that we do what is best. As far as the value of the project, I agree. I think, you have Central Street going into an industrial area, and if you can get businesses that are there that will help attract a little more traffic and interest, that's one thing. But at the same time, we are going to be looking at, if you have an industrial park, and because of the way the situation is, working out yet, I don't know how much having a coffee shop is going to help, in the whole scale of things. So I would feel much more comfortable myself asking for Copeland and Page to review the CBA and see if they agree and take it from there. Otherwise, I feel as if I were nearly flying blind trying to decide which is the correct or the best recommendation. And I don't know, I think we need to give this a little more time. I don't, as I say, I knew that there was a possibility of this happening at some time in the future, but at the same time, the zoning board of appeals to me is probably the board that carries the most weight out of this. And if they're exactly 180 degrees opposed to what the planning board recommends, then I think we need to carry some extra weight on behalf of the zoning board of appeals to make sure that all of our ducks in a row.
Councilor Feckley.
We also referred this out to the Economic Office of Planning and Development.
Yeah.
So we have a letter, did we say that, did we read that into the record?
I haven't read that into the record yet.
Okay, so I'll just paraphrase it?
Sure.
Okay, so this was from the Economic Development Coordinator, Lisa Maroney. The City of Leominster is receiving continual interest for Southgate Business Park for uses other than industrial developments throughout the state. No, other than industrial. Developments throughout the state offer mixed-use zoning because of the appeal and flexibility of usage with market demands. Just wanted to read that into the record.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, I read an article the other day, and I think it was the Sentinel, about the Fort Devens project. Fort Devens is probably the biggest reason why there's not a project or anything in this park right now, not only my park, but every other park that we have in this area. But if you look at them as the huge success story that they are, and they're going to use that as the role model for the entire country on a closing basis, there's the perfect example of mixed uses in one park and what makes them work and they all come together.
Councilor Frida.
Just to add to that, you can easily fill up Devons when you don't have the permitting process that the state allows them to go in and virtually no.
We actually do have the permitting process. We got it approved. Supposedly, it's the same exact permitting process that Fort Devens has. The problem that we have is we don't have the negotiating power that the state has to attract people into that park.
Yeah, well, when you're dealing with mass development, I mean, it's a little bit different.
We've made several deals to have them walk away and go to Devens. That's a whole different story I'd love to get into someday.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, quick committee work. I think, I don't think spot zoning is an issue, but I understand there's a couple of councilors that are concerned about it, so I'd like to continue the public hearing. We'll get a letter from Copeland and Page on the issue of spot zoning, also on the issue of the Moore grant and the PWIT grant. I'll speak to Mr. Whitney, I'll get the contact information for the State Department, and I'll speak to them and report back. Madam Clerk, when's the,
July 11th or the 25th.
Mr. Whitney, July 11th or the 25th?
11th is fine.
July 11th?
6:30. 6:30.
6:30. And Councilor Zephyr, you had one other comment?
I did, yep. Just to address what Mr. Whitney said, we should talk about that. I mean, if Devon's and Mass Development have a significant advantage over regular communities like Leominster, which is a gateway city, that's a big problem. You know, if manufacturers or other industrial uses are going there because they have an unfair advantage, we really need to understand that, and we need to raise that with, you know, our own legislators, because Leominster's a gateway city, and that means that we should have, you know, some advantages in order to attract quality industry. So we should have that conversation. I think that's a
Absolutely.
very important one.
Absolutely. The mayor and I have had it, and Mr. Lascotti, and everyone else that owns industrial land in Leominster, Fitchburg, and Westminster area, we're all running into the same problems. SMC is a perfect example. We talked to them, we had a deal almost done with them on a 200,000 square foot building. They ended up in Evergreen Solar's building after they broke the building up into several parcels. Now, not only did we deal with the redevelopment of Fort Devens, we dealt with the redevelopment of Fort Devens. So how many times do we have to go through this? You know, they took customers to begin with. They were supposed to be dealing with the bigger of the customers that we couldn't handle. So after they built those buildings and the people went away and couldn't occupy them, they broke them up into smaller buildings and took the people that we could handle. I got a few more of those too. Pretty frustrating.
Okay. All right, we'll be back on July 11th at 6:30.
Thank you.
And thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, 66-16 hearing at 6:30.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Petition 66-16, Al McCallie Ayub Engineering, Inc., agent for Sunoco LLC. Amend the license for 468 Main Street to allow the storage of two 300-gallon above-ground storage tanks for waste oil and heating oil, and two 20,000-gallon underground storage tanks for gasoline and diesel. Sir, if you could just identify yourself for the council?
Sure, Al McCallie, AUB Engineering, consulting engineer working with Sunoco.
Okay, and if you could just give us a quick overview of what exactly you're asking?
Sure, the station is 468 Main Street. We're looking to remove the existing single-wall tanks that have been in the ground for about 30 years, replace them with two larger underground storage tanks, with one large one with regular, one with a split diesel, high-grade gas. Then we're going to pull the two waste oil fuel oil tanks out of the ground, and we're going to put a couple of above-ground tanks behind the building. If you've seen plans, we originally had proposed to put one of the tanks on the side of the building. Discussions, I believe, with the neighbor, I'm not privy exactly, but we've decided to move them both behind the building so they're away from the neighbors. So there really isn't much to it. The tanks are state-of-the-art, all the bells and whistles that you're looking for, monitoring the tanks, the piping, the dispensers. It's just time for those tanks to come out of the ground.
Okay. And before I get into any questions or comments, I do have two letters on this. The first letter is dated June 8th, and it's from Christopher J. Knuth, Director of the Health Department. The ray line is this particular petition: Dear Ms. Bouchard, the Leominster Health Department has reviewed the proposal to allow Sunoco to increase their storage of oil and gasoline at their 468 Main Street location and offers the following comments. The package doesn't include the technical aspects of the above-ground or the underground storage tanks. We know the underground storage tanks are required to have secondary containment and monitoring devices. The above-ground tank should also have secondary containment. The engineer has referenced the requirements of the Rhode Island DEM in the installation and testing section number 2. This should be changed to reflect the requirements of the Mass DEP. We hope the City Council finds our comments useful in their evaluation of this petition. Please feel free to contact our office if you need further information or if anyone would like to discuss our opinion.
Just if I could respond to that one,
Yes,
I noticed that those DEM references, we do a lot of tank plans, we're gonna correct that to be the Mass spec, and
Okay.
secondly, they will be contained double wall above ground tanks.
Okay, could you explain how that works, just for our own?
It's actually just, see, almost like a refrigerator, where it's a little bit shorter than a refrigerator, a little bit wider, and there's just a second wall within that tank. They are installed on a concrete pad, typically behind the building or out of sight, so that if it leaks from the interior of the tank, it leaks to the outer wall and gets contained within that structure.
Okay.
And then we're notified, and then we go to take care of it. So typically, there's no leak. A lot better than the old 250-gallon tank you had in your basement when you had your fuel oil for your house.
In my understanding, that is a DEP requirement. Okay?
Yeah, these are actually UL-listed tanks, NFPA 30 regulated, and we put them in a lot of locations.
Okay. We have a second letter dated June 8th, 2016, from the Leominster Fire Department. The ray line is this same petition. Dear Ms. Bouchard, pursuant to the request from the City Council for a recommendation on the above captioned petition, please be advised that I am in favor of the petitioner's request to amend the license for 468 Main Street to allow the storage of 2 300-gallon above-ground storage tanks and 2 20,000-gallon underground storage tanks. If you have any further questions, please contact me. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from Legal Affairs? Council Marchand?
I'm all set right now, thank you.
Okay, Council Frida?
What's that?
Anybody else on the City Council? Council Nichols?
Yes. The 300-gallon above ground, what kind of storage is that? That gasoline and stuff? also?
There's actually two of them. There's one is there'll be a fuel oil tank, which will fire for heat for the building. The second one will be a waste oil tank, which typically gas stations should provide a place where customers can bring back used waste oil. It used to be they'd put it in a 55-gallon drum in the service bay. Now, as time has gone on, we do a little bit better job of collecting that and providing the customer someplace to bring their used oil to.
All right.
That's what it's for.
Yes, that's my question. I'm all set.
All right, anybody else? No? Is there any member of the audience who wishes to question or make comments on this petition? Second time, any member of the audience wish to address the council on this petition? Third and final time, does anyone in the audience wish to address the council on this petition? Okay, quickly with my committee, I think I'd be in favor of granting this petition. Council Frida?
I'm all set, thank you.
So we'll close the public hearing tonight, and we'll take it before the full council later this evening.
Okay, is there a need for me to hang around for that, or will there be other questions sitting there?
I don't, no, we can't raise any other questions, so there might be some discussion between us, but, you know, if I can read the tea leaves,
Okay.
you know, I think,
Then I'll follow up in the morning.
okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
We
you very
appreciate
much,
it.
sir.
Okay, Councilor Bedanza, we have a finance hearing at 6:40 PM. I'm sure you can get this in about 8 minutes.
Okay, I'll do my best. Relative to the sum of $1,500,000 for the purpose of financing rehabilitation of the Pond Street and Wachusett Reservoir pump stations, including without limitation all costs thereof, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow $1,500,000 to issue bonds and notes therefore under the General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling legislation, and/or Chapter 29C of the General Laws. That such bonds or notes shall be general obligations of the city, unless the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, determines that they should be issued as limited obligations and may be secured by local system revenues as defined by Section 1 of Chapter 29C, that the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow all or a portion of such amount from the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust established pursuant to Chapter 29C, and in connection therewith to enter into financing agreement and/or security agreement with the trust and otherwise contract with the trust and the Department of Environmental Protection with respect to such loan and for any federal or state aid available for the project or for financing thereof, and that the mayor or treasurer is authorized to enter into a project regulatory agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection to expend all funds available for the project and to take other action necessary and convenient to carry out the project and this vote. I'd go to members of the Finance Committee, see if they have anything to add to that.
No, good.
Councilor Nichol. And to members of the public, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this for or against? And I'll ask again, is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this communication for or against? And last, is there any member of the committee, the public that wishes to speak for or against? And I guess at this juncture, I would close it here.
Council Dabrowski, we have a few minutes if you want to start 63-16 hearing at 6:50.
Yeah. This is petition 63-16. Mr. Bavenzi's representatives want to come in. This is Peter E. Bavenzi, trustee, Neighborhood Development Trust. Approve a zoning change to change maximum height for principal buildings in RC District as set forth in subsection 22-40.3 on lots with at least 5 acres of area from 35 feet to 40 feet. Gentlemen, if you could just identify yourselves for the council.
Sure. My name is Jim Donovan of Bavenzi and Donovan for the applicant.
I'm Peter Reynolds of McKenzie Engineering.
And if you could just give us a quick overview of what you're trying to do.
Well, on the first petition, first of all, the council may recall that this was before you in April, but we improperly conjoined the two petitions, this and the rezoning petition. So we refiled. This first petition is to raise on a lot with over 5 acres of area, raise the height limitation from 35 to 40 feet. This is essentially the concerns Brooks Pond. The buildings there were all built to code. In the buildings, there are 8 buildings in place. They've been there for over half a dozen years. There is a plan to build 3 more buildings. They're going to be identical in dimensions as the buildings that are there. But the measurement from grade level to the midpoint of the roof, it's actually more than 35 feet, and we need the increase from 35 feet to 40 feet to allow the proposed buildings to comply with zoning. Excuse me.
Yeah, Peter wants to build, actually it's 6 more buildings, but he wants to build the same building that's there right now. He's not making the building any taller than it was previously. It's just to build the exact same building.
Before I get into any questions or comments, we do have a letter from the planning board dated June 9th, 2016. I noticed with some chagrin, Mr. Donovan, that although they wanted your petitions to be 2 separate petitions, they have combined their recommendation.
As long as it's favorable.
Okay. So the ray lines are petition 6316 and 6416. Dear Lynn, at a regularly scheduled planning board meeting on June 6, 2016, the planning board unanimously recommended to approve City Council petition 63-16 to change the maximum height for principal buildings in the RC district on lots over 5 acres from 35 to 40 feet. And I'll get into their second recommendation at the next hearing. Any councilors have any questions? Councilor Fried, I'll start with you.
This probably doesn't apply, it'll probably be the next one that does, but I had asked Attorney Bavenzi when he was here about the entire funding of the project, because there was question of the storage with some of the neighbors on Debbie Drive. There were 4 properties that aren't finished yet. When I saw Mr. Bavenzi not that long ago, he said it would be completed. I think it's all part of the whole plan. I think it's part of the whole issue, and I think that needs to be done before there's any amendments made to it.
I'm sorry, I'm not following you exactly, Counselor Frida.
You're talking about Brooks Pond.
Correct.
Yeah.
There are additional buildings that we're proposing.
Not the buildings.
There's 4 more buildings that aren't built yet.
Right, but
Yeah.
there was an agreement made with the neighbors on Debbie Drive, and everything's been done except 4 houses that connect to the sewer, and it's coming from the back end. And I think the counselor from Ward 3 is familiar with it. The equipment's there, you know, the promise is there. It's been almost 10 years. And I think that needs to be looked at in the scheme of the whole financing package, because I think it's mentioned in there that that's part of the agreement. So I have a little bit, I support this, but I have a little bit of an issue on granting any changes until the original agreement is met.
Councilor Coleman,
I'm sorry.
you want to respond to that?
Well, quite frankly, I wasn't aware of Counselor Frida's, of that particular issue. I know that it's anticipated that we hope to get construction financing in place on the new buildings, and they are on the Debbie Drive, the sort of the southeastern.
It's the back. It's on the Brooks Pond side.
Okay.
In the back of the properties. It's not on Debbie Drive, but there are the neighbors there that were told that it was going to be finished 5 years ago. So, and it's just a matter of 3 or 4 houses. But there was a little bit of ledge, and I think that held it up. But I think it needs to be looked at, because that was part of the process.
Do you know what the work is that isn't finished?
Yeah, just putting a line in. It's just continuing the line.
Sewer line?
The sewer,
Sewer
yeah.
line.
Yeah.
So those 3 are on septic and they want to be tied into city sewer, that's what it
Yeah.
is?
And he's gone up to a certain point and hasn't gone for the other 3 to be completed. And Frank has said it's gonna be done. I mean, I think you could check with the DPW, because I drive them crazy, just to get answers, for some of the people that it's gonna be done.
I understand, I wasn't aware of that issue, so I'm sorry, I can't really comment that.
I would guess when they get financing, it'll be done.
Yeah, that would probably relatively.
It's not a big deal,
Yeah.
it's just,
It's not gonna be
Just
relatively
not
big deal
done.
compared to the scope of the construction that they're doing.
Councilor Coleman?
Yeah, I'm just gonna make one quick comment about 6316, and then I have to start the meeting, because we're running a minute late already, but I did attend the planning board meeting, I think it was a week ago tonight, if I'm not mistaken, and regarding the height of the buildings and what they're petitioning, from what I've heard, it was just basically a typo when the zoning was done. It should have been 40 feet in the beginning, and it got put in as 35 from what I think I've gathered from that. So I don't think it's a really big deal. The planning board certainly didn't make a big deal out of the height and what they're petitioning here, so. Okay. And what I have to do is I have to start our city council meeting by law, so what I'll do is I'll start the meeting, I'll take care of some business really quick, and then I'll ask for a recess, and we'll come back to you and continue the hearing and move on to the other hearing as well. So the regular meeting of the Leominster City Council will now come to order for June 13th of 2016. Will you all please stand and join me for a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now take a roll call of the honorable members of the Leominster City Council, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Present.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Present.
Councilor Feckley.
Present.
Councilor Bedanza.
Present.
Councilor Lanciani.
Present.
Councilor Nichol.
Present.
And I will be recorded as present. There are 8 members currently present, but Rick is Rick is here as well.
Yeah, give him 2 seconds.
Councilor Marchian?
Here.
Present. Okay, so there are 9 members of the city council that are present. Does the chairman of records have any records to report?
I do. I have records of March 28th, April 11th, April 25th, May 9th, and May 23rd. I've gone through them all over the weekend, find them to be in order, so I recommend them placed on file.
Okay, so we have records for March 28th, April 11th, April 25th, May 9th, and May 23rd of 2016. Is there any questions or comments about any of those minutes? If not, all of the minutes of those meetings will be placed on file. Can I get a motion for a recess?
So moved.
Second? Okay. So the council now stands in recess. Councilor Dombrowski, would you like to continue the hearing on 6316?
Yeah. We also got a letter from the building inspector where he, I think didn't he change his opinion? Madam Clerk, I thought he sent a letter initially indicating he wasn't in favor, but then sent a subsequent letter indicating that he recommended approval.
One letter, yeah.
Just one letter? Okay. All right. He sent us a letter dated May 11th, and he addressed both petitions. With regard to this particular petition, oh no, I'm right. Just give me a minute.
The one from the 9th, John?
Yeah.
Maybe were you thinking back to when it was first petitioned?
Maybe when it was first petitioned,
Maybe
he
there was-
sent one, but in any event, I don't think it's relevant. There's a letter dated May 11th, 2016. And with regard to this petition, the building commissioner indicates, I have no concerns in regard to changing the maximum height and see no problem with it being approved. We've got a letter from the Board of Appeals indicating that they did not feel that they had enough information to make a recommendation. Do any councilors have any other questions or comments? Councilor Feckley?
I just have a quick question. So, Mr. Reynolds, you said that Mr. Vivenzi plans on building exactly the same buildings as are there now. So, how tall are the buildings that are there now?
The bottom of the roof is 29 feet.
Yeah.
And the top of the roof is 46 feet.
Okay.
The average height of the roof is where the building code comes in.
Okay.
Defines for the average grade to the average height of the roof is just under 40 feet, like 38, 39 feet.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we also have letters, one dated June 9th, one dated April 11th, and a second letter dated April 11th from the Deputy Chief John Gendron of the Leominster Fire Department, and also Chief Robert A. Sidlow of the Leominster Fire Department. And both of those gentlemen also don't have any problem with the approval of this petition. I'm going to go to the members of the audience. Does anyone wish to address the council on this particular petition, either for or against? Second time, does anyone wish to address the council on this petition? Third and final time, does anyone wish to address the council? Seeing that, any final comments or questions from councilors? Councilor Fried, it'd be my recommendation to grant this. close the public hearing tonight.
I just have an issue with promises that have been made. I don't know that I support amending the project without fulfilling what has been told. It's not a big deal. Very little work to be done. It's just a matter of just doing it.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Could you stipulate that no occupancy permits for any additional work be granted until all work at Debbie Drive is finished? That way, it won't hold up any construction financing, and they'll have the money to do Debbie Drive. But they won't get any occupancy permits, so he knows he's gonna have to do it, lickety-split.
Well, he knows I don't think the DPW would give him any permits at this point. I mean, I've had this discussion quite often with him.
I think if he is.
I appreciate that, you know, and I understand what the council is trying to do, and I think it's important to, you know, to stand up for the residents, but, you know, the Red Sox need another starting pitcher, and I'm not sure really how that comes into play with a request for a zoning change.
Because it's part of his financing package, and this is part of that same package.
This is a request for a zoning change.
Right.
I don't know if anyone sees it, I mean,
Well, originally it was all residential.
I know, but this particular petition is solely a request for a zoning change. I don't feel comfortable conditioning or stipulating. That's just not our role.
That's fine, then I'm against it.
Okay, so, we'll, unless you want us to keep this hearing open, I mean, I'm inclined to close the hearing and we'll take it for a vote tonight.
Close the hearing. I think that's kind of, I don't say this in any disrespect at all, I just think that's really attenuated, and I think that there's other ways to, as Mr. Reynolds said, either on the permitting process to get that sewer line in, and again, I suspect that you're right, it's not a significant thing vis-a-vis the amount of construction that's going to be going on and the amount of disruption that's going to be going on over there when they build these 4 new 30-unit buildings.
All right, so we'll close the public hearing. And we have petition 6416, another hearing before the City Council. Peter E. Bavenzi, trustee, Neighborhood Development Trust, approve a zoning change from commercial district to residence C district for a 21,840 square foot parcel as shown on Assessor's Map 317, Parcel 7A. Mr. Donovan, you want to give us a quick overview?
I certainly do. Again, good evening. This second petition involves a 21,000 square foot piece of property. I think this is the easiest way to say it. It's immediately behind the existing bocce courts off of Central Street and Brooks Pond Road. I think at some point there was a thought of doing a commercial use that would front onto Brooks Pond Road. Initially, the zoning line was 300 feet back from Central Street or Route 12. It at some point became another 60 or 70 feet deep. Now that the idea of doing a commercial use there has been abandoned, and we want to revert back to where that and I think everyone has seen this map, or this map's distributed, that checked or slashed diagonal lines portion will revert back to the C residence zone it was.
Yeah, it was just returning the zoning line back to where it was before he changed it to commercial.
Okay. Before I get into any input from other councilors, we have a letter dated June 9th from the Planning Board where they are recommending unanimously to approve this petition. We also have a letter dated May 11th, 2016 from the Building Commissioner who is likewise recommending to approve this petition, and he indicates similarly to the applicant, it is my recommendation that the parcel be rezoned from commercial to residential C, as this would straighten the zoning line on the current map. And again, we have a letter from the Zoning Board of Appeals indicating that they don't have enough information to make a recommendation. I would add that the building commissioner is the enforcement agent. Counselor Frida, do you have any questions?
No, we have the same position.
Okay. Any other counselors have any questions on this? Counselor Cormier?
Well, you know, if I may, I kind of agree with, you know, what Counselor Frida's position is. I can see her position on 6416, but I don't know about the other one. To me, they're two totally separate things. I think one of them is just a generalized ordinance, and the other one is, you know, geared more toward this property. But one of the questions that I have is, you're talking about some land behind the bocce court, if I'm not mistaken?
Correct.
Okay, so he intends on keeping that land. He's not gonna sell it or anything like that. I'm just.
He's going to join it to the, well, it's, right now, it's still part of the same legal description, but it's just where the zoning line currently exists is going to revert back to where it did exist, which is only about 20 feet off the back of the bocce courts. Right now, the line is about 70 feet from the back of the bocce courts.
Okay, so he's gonna basically be his own abutter there with the bocce court.
Correct.
I'm just concerned, I mean, it's a very well-used facility there. You know, I'm just concerned about noise and with such a close proximity to people living, but of course it's gonna be his own, sort of his own problem, if you will. So, you know, he'll have to tell his own tenants, too bad, or he'll have to tell the people at the bocce courts to quiet down. So that's gonna be his problem, I guess, right?
We're striving to make bocce a more genteel sport.
Yeah.
I understand your.
I mean, the problem is, you know, people who live there, they don't know, and they call their ward counselor and they say, this is a problem I'm having, you know? And if I'm rezoning land, you know, I don't wanna hear this sort of thing, but I guess he's gonna be his own problem, is what I'm getting at, unless he plans on selling off the land, which I don't see happening.
I don't think he plans to sell any of this land off.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly how big is that parcel that you're seeking to rezone?
It's just under half an acre.
Just under half an acre, okay. Any other counselors? Any members of the audience wish to address the council on this particular petition? Second time, any members of the public wish to address the council on this petition? Third and final time, does anyone wish to address the council on this particular petition? Okay, I think we probably have a similar situation. Okay, Mr. President, we close this public hearing and we'll take the matter up in regular course later this evening.
Okay.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Okay, so at this time, we had a public forum scheduled for 7:15. So we're now going to hold the public forum. The public forum is to allow any person in the audience to speak on any matter listed on the council agenda. The members of the city council will not be answering any questions, but will be listening to the opinions expressed by the speaker. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes or less. I'm just waiting for the sheet to see if anybody has signed up. Thank you very much. We do have a few people that have signed up. It looks like the first person is Roy Nascimento. Thank you very much. Please step up to the microphone and speak your state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, councilors, for the opportunity to speak this evening. For the record, my name is Roy Nascimento. I am President and CEO of the North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce, located at 860 South Street in Fitchburg. The Chamber is the region's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan business and economic development organization in the region. We have nearly 900 member businesses, including many here in the city of Leominster. And I'm here tonight to express our concerns over the proposal to increase the city's local room occupancy tax from 4% to 6%. We certainly recognize the need for new tax revenues to help support the many good public services that residents and businesses receive in Leominster. But like you, we have long supported the notion that the best way to raise new revenues for the city of Leominster is to ensure that new businesses are attracted to Leominster and that existing local businesses can thrive here, providing both tax revenues and jobs for the residents of Leominster and the region. Leominster has a very successful track record of being pro-business, and that has served the community well and has helped to attract new businesses and new tax revenues and retain businesses as well. So we are certainly concerned about the message of increasing this tax that it would send to the local business community. Placing an unfair tax burden upon a single industry in the community with less than a handful of businesses within that industry, one that has historically acted in the best interest of the community and that has helped generate new tax revenues for the community, would hardly be good business on the city's part. We are also concerned that it would put Leominster at a competitive disadvantage in the region and put its existing rooms tax revenue, which has been trending upwards, at risk. Currently, our local option rooms tax is lower than both Worcester and Marlborough, two communities that have hotels and that are our main competition for the group tour market as well as corporate travelers. And if we level the playing field, we risk losing business to those cities, which would negatively impact Leominster's finances. We must understand that our guests at our hotels are not necessarily people visiting hotels or families in the area. Certainly we have some of those that will stay at our local hotels. But our guests also include groups and corporate travelers, and they have many options for where to stay. It's a very highly competitive travel marketplace. I would like to thank the council for the opportunity to express our concerns this evening, and we would encourage the council to consider the impacts of the proposed increase on these local businesses and to take into consideration the concerns of the business community. We appreciate your consideration on this important issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the list is Patrick McCarty. I'm sorry, Patrick LaPointe. I'm thinking of one person and saying another.
How you doing? Thank you, Mr. President. It's nice to see you all. I'm here to urge you to approve Communication 95 for a $7,000 appropriation to the Historical Commission, which I'm a proud member of. Real quickly, I have a quote here for the equipment that we're looking for. It's mainly to upgrade one computer and buy a high-speed scanner to allow us to get our over 38,000 documents and pictures digitized for the future. The computer monitor is about $1,370. The scanner is $690. Wireless router is $800. Computer software and programming is $1,235. We've got $1,600 budgeted for network system services. For network POV switch, whatever that is $900, and miscellaneous items is $500. What we're trying to do, and what we are eventually going to do with this money, is share our information with the public. Right now on Facebook, we have visitors to our website from all over the world. And Rocco Palmieri, our computer whiz, will get into that in a minute. But I am particularly interested in two historical people. Edmund Davis was a photographer. We have pictures, copy of his pictures from 1853 to 1909. And we also have Percy Johnson from 1893 to 1936. That stretches from back before the Civil War. We have pictures of the downtown area and all over the city. And we want to share those with you and with the rest of the city, obviously, and anybody that's going to be smart enough to look at them. So I urge you. I know $7,000 Doesn't sound like a lot of money in the big scheme of things, but for us, it's a huge amount. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. Next is Mike Kerrigan. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Mike Kerrigan, Hamilton Street, Leominster, and I'm a member of the Historical Commission. Just want to reiterate what Pat is saying about we need to upgrade our equipment and bring the commission into the 21st century. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's all that is signed up at this time, so I'll ask, is there any member of the audience that would like to speak at the public forum? If so, please step to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I am Suzanne Farias. I'm General Manager of the Doubletree by Hilton, located on 99 Urban Way in Leominster. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm speaking here tonight to oppose the 68-16 proposal to increase the city's local occupancy tax from 4% to 6%. Data on rooms tax revenue proves that it is growing on its own. Looking at the first 3 quarters of fiscal year 2016 in comparison to the first 3 quarters of fiscal year 2015, room tax revenue has seen an increase of 30% year over year. These increases have been supported by the Doubletree and the aggressive $4.5 million renovation that we invested in our property and effectively the city of Leominster. Increasing the rooms tax puts Leominster at a competitive disadvantage. Currently, our local option room tax is lower than both Worcester and Marlborough, which are our main competition. If we level the playing field, we risk losing to those cities, which would negatively impact Leominster's finances. When brought before you for debate, I humbly ask that you reject this proposal. While on the surface it may seem like a way to increase revenue for the city, but it actually positions Leominster in a severe disadvantage and puts rooms tax revenue at risk going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak at the public forum?
My name is Rocco Palmieri. I'm from the Historical Commission. I want to thank you, first of all, for a couple of years ago, I was here looking for money to buy a new computer. Well, we've made use of that computer. We've scanned over 3,000 or 30,000 images, which we're now sharing on our Facebook page. And what we're trying to do in the future is have people tap into this computer that we're asking for and to look and research and keep all these files updated and for people to use. When I joined the commission 12 years ago, I looked through and saw all this data that was being lost and just stored there. And now, what we're going through it, we want to share it with the city of Leominster as well as other people. And so far, our Facebook page has been going good. We're getting about 150 hits per week as they're going through, and a lot of repeats. So what we've just finished now was Leominster Lake and Park, which had a good response to people. So we have a lot of history of Leominster, and we want to preserve it. And we want to thank you for your help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to speak at the public forum? Once again, would anybody else like to speak at the public forum? And for the third and final time, would anybody else like to speak at the public forum? Seeing none, I now declare the public forum closed. And Madam Chairwoman of Ways and Means, I believe you have a 7:20 interview. I apologize to the woman that's been waiting.
We have an appointment to the Office of Emergency Management Administrative Unit, Carrie Noseworthy. Hi, Carrie.
Hello.
Hi. I'm Gail Beckley, and I'm the chair of the Ways and Means, and the other members are Counselor Marchand and Counselor Lanciani.
Hello.
So, and I see you have some members of your family here?
Yes,
Would you
my
like them to
son.
come up and
Would you
join?
boys like to come up?
These are your sons?
Yes.
And their names?
This is Justin, and he attends Skyview in LEAP, and this is Connor, and he attends Francis Drake in the LEAP program.
Great. I'm sure they're part of your history, so, yes. Okay, so Carrie, we're just going to ask you a few questions about your background and what you feel as though you would be able to contribute to the Office of Emergency Management. But before I do want to read a letter from Charlie Coggins, who is the director, who requested your appointment. And it says that Carrie has an impressive resume. She served as a sergeant in the Army National Guard, and she is currently enrolled in Suffolk University in Boston, studying for her master's in public administration. And she has been a volunteer duty aide here in the Leominster School District. Carrie is very knowledgeable, and she will be a great asset to the Leominster Office of Emergency Management. So just going forward on that recommendation, and again, the mayor did send down your appointment to us, so here you are to discuss your background.
Sure, and thank you all very much for having me here this evening. As Charlie had mentioned, I am a candidate right now for my Master's in Public Administration at Suffolk University. I just graduated with a LEND Fellowship, which stands for Leadership, Education, and Neurodevelopmental Disabilities, and that's a program that combines UMass Medical School and Suffolk University. I, as was already mentioned, am a veteran of the Army National Guard. What brought me to this interest actually was one of my courses, which is called Access for Disabilities, and a project that I was working on. Having been in the Army National Guard, having believed in public service, my master's degree program has really sort of brought me to the point that I'm very much interested in emergency management. Specifically, actually, I've written a few things down. Charlie had mentioned something about the possible creation of a new position to be the singular point of contact for families in need if someone's home burned down or things like that, to sort of offset, I think, a little of the burden on the mayor. In the administrative section, working on updating policies and procedures, which is near and dear to my heart. My undergraduate is in social psychology, but policy is a big part of what I'm studying right now. And I just spent 3 days in Washington, D.C. recently talking to a few of the politicians about autism training for mental health responders to include police. That's an area that I'm very much interested in. I'd like to help focus on creating new sustainable partnerships to bring in some young blood and help revitalize emergency management. And a large part for me actually is also to increase access to emergency preparedness for children and adults with disabilities. About 17 to 20% of the average population is disabled, and with the baby boomers aging and a lot of the children with autism sort of coming up the ranks, that's an area that is very much interest to me. And I think that in doing so, that sort of increases the quality that's given to all the residents of Leominster and the surrounding areas.
Okay. So this is not something that is incorporated in the OEM now. This would be something that you would bring new to it?
Yes, the position that Charlie had spoken about, I believe, would be a new position. Again, if someone was, say someone's home burned down, one of the things I'd mentioned is I was a family partner for 2 years at the Lipton Center. So I'm very much familiar with meeting a family where they're at, person-centered care, family-centered care, and recognizing that in addition to sort of triaging, getting someone food and a place to stay, that they probably had other things going on in their lives before an incident occurred that then become more problematic, and sort of help develop a process so that when these things occur, we have planning and we know exactly what we're going to do, what we can offer, and there's consistency throughout.
Okay. Sounds like something that would be needed.
Yeah,
kind of
I think so,
An
yes.
extension of the Red Cross and other agencies.
Right, sort of a singular point of contact where now well-meaning people, everything explodes on Facebook and everybody's all over the place trying to help out. And the thought is that if we can sort of create a singular process, point of contact, that we can better serve the people who are in need.
Sounds great. Okay, Councilor Marchand, do you have any
Oh my
comments
God,
or
very
questions?
impressed. Are you kidding me?
I know
This
we've
is
had some
awesome.
candidates lately.
This is, you guys proud of your mom?
Yes.
Hope so. She's wicked strong like that t-shirt, huh? No, this is good. It's so great to have you joining the troops down in emergency management. You're going to bring so much to the table. It's just fantastic, and thank you for serving.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Councilor Anziani?
Thank you. Hearing you speak and knowing that Charlie wouldn't send your name up here if you weren't going to do him some good, I have a very, very deep sense of pride because I served with emergency management when it was civil defense. I was at one time the director of that same organization, so I know what you're saying. I know that it's deeply needed because you do have those situations where you need someone that can coordinate that right there at city, at the Civil Defense or Emergency Management Office. So I was very curious what you would have to offer, and I'm very pleased that Charlie is recommending you, and I support you wholeheartedly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other councils? Councilor Bedanza?
Yeah, I had a chance to meet Carrie in connection with one of Justin's interests. And I know that she's very community involved, and so is, I'm sure both of her sons are, because I know Justin is. So she's also raising her children to have that same type of community involvement, so I'm happy to support you this evening.
Thank you very much.
Any other councilors have any comments? Councilor Shalfo?
Yep, thank you. Thank you very much, Carrie, for coming down. I think it's wonderful that the people in Leominster have an opportunity to see you and see the kind of, background and experience and interest that you're bringing as a volunteer to the city's Office of Emergency Management. I mean, that's certainly to be commended, and I'm sure you're extremely busy, still trying to finish school, raise kids,
Yes.
work, yeah. But I just want to say thank you very much for bringing, all of your background and experience as a volunteer to Leominster.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
President Cormier.
I just want to say that, your background is very impressive, and I think we're very happy to have you. I wish you well in your position, and I'm sure that you'll do well, so good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Councilor Nichol?
When you first started to speak, in my mind, I said, gee, I wonder what part of emergency management you'd be interested in. Communications and other things passed through my mind. But I find it a nice change to not only just have somebody, I won't say just, but have somebody come in and be willing to volunteer, but also be the person who helps establish a new program. So that is impressive, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much. Any councilors, questions or comments? Okay, Carrie, thank you very much for coming. I think that you're being willing to volunteer to put this unique, but I think needed spin on, what the Office of Emergency Management can offer the citizens of Leominster is a wonderful thing. And again, I appreciate all the things that you're doing in your life to also want to be able to offer this to the city. So I'm going to be asking the council president to move up your appointment, so we don't have to wait too long. You can stay as long as you like, or as little as you like. And thank you for bringing your boys with you, and you guys can tell your friends to watch you on TV. Channel 99. Okay?
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, the council now stands back in session, and we will move right into communications, beginning with C-101, Madam Clerk.
C-101, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Exempt Aaron Van Tove from a conflict of interest as provided for in Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, as she is a biology teacher for the Leominster School Department and will be working as an enrichment instructor for the Recreation Department.
And C-101 will be referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
First time on the agenda, Mr. President, regular course.
Okay, C-101 has been given regular course. C-102.
Dean J. Mazzarella may exempt Jeffrey Solier from a conflict of interest as provided for Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, as he is a physical education teacher for the Leominster School Department and will be working as the Sports Mania Program Director for the Recreation Department.
And C-102 is referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
First time on the agenda, Mr. President, regular course.
C-102 has been given regular course. C-103.
C-103, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, consider inquiring by an eminent domain permanent and temporary easements on certain properties located on or near the Monusnock Brook in connection with Phase 2 of the Monusnock Brook Riverwalk. The properties affected by the takings are set forth more particularly in Schedule A and shown on the plan entitled Monusnock Brook, Leominster, Mass., prepared by Brown, Richardson, and Rowe Incorporated.
C-103 is referred to the Chairman of Legal Affairs.
Regular course.
C-103 has been given regular course. C-104. Sure. So we'll take, if there's no objection, C-104, C-105, and C-106 in block. Madam Clerk?
C-104, relative to the appropriation of $116,275,000 to the fiscal year 2017 general fund budget accounts as listed, same to be raised or offset by fiscal year 2017 revenue. C-105, relative to the appropriation of $5,678,005 to the fiscal year 2017 water department budget accounts as listed, same to be raised or offset by the fiscal year 2017 water rates to be collected as authorized by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E. C-106, relative to the appropriation of $5,453,705 to the fiscal year 2017 sewer department budget accounts as listed, same to be raised or offset by the fiscal year 2017 sewer rates to be collected as authorized by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E.
And C-104, C-105, and C-106 will be referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Yes, Mr. President, regular course with a hearing at our next meeting on June 27th at 7 p.m.
Okay, so C-104, C-105, and C-106 have been given regular course with a hearing on June 27th, 2016 at 7 p.m. C-107.
C-107, relative to the appropriation of $75,000 to the fire department overtime account, same to be transferred from the fire department salary and wages account.
C-107 will be referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Regular course, Mr. President.
C-107 has been given regular course. C-108.
C-108, relative to the appropriation of $1,023 to the Veteran Services salary and wages account, same to be transferred from the Veterans Department expense account.
C-108 will also be referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Yes, Mr. President, regular course, please.
C-108 has been given regular course. C-109.
Relative to the appropriation of $15,000 to the collector's expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
C-109 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Also regular course, Mr. President.
C-109 has been given regular course. C-110.
C-110, relative to the appropriation of $11,400 to the building department capital outlay expenses account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
C-110 is being referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Likewise, Mr. President, regular course, please.
C-110 has been given regular course. C-111.
C-111, relative to the appropriation of $600,000 to the fire department capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
C-111 is being referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Yes, Mr. President, regular course.
C-111 has been given regular course. C-112.
C-112, relative to the appropriation of $4,000 to the health department expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
C-112 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Regular course, Mr. President.
C-112 has been given regular course. C-113.
C-113, relative to the appropriation of $310,000 to the Highway Department capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
C-113 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Regular course, please.
C-113 has been given regular course. C-114.
C-114, relative to the appropriation of $284,036 to the insurance expense account, same to be transferred from the workers' compensation loss fund accounts as listed. Fiscal year 2005, workers' compensation loss fund, $170,000. Fiscal year 2014, workers' compensation loss fund, $52,835.77. Fiscal year 2013, workers' compensation loss fund, $35,000. Fiscal year 2012, workers' compensation loss fund, $21,000. Fiscal year 2010, workers' compensation loss fund, $2,000. Fiscal year 2009, workers' compensation loss fund, $3,423. This is relative to the 2000 and workers' compensation loss fund.
Okay, C-114 will be referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Regular course, please.
C-114 has been given regular course. C-115.
C-115, relative to the appropriation of $26,500 to the insurance expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
C-115 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Regular course, Mr. President.
C-115 has been given regular course. C-116.
C-116, relative to the appropriation of $30,000 to the ITTF expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
C-116 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Regular course, please.
C-116 has been given regular course. C-117.
C-117, relative to the appropriation of $308,000 to the Police Department capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
And C-117 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Regular course, please.
C-117 has been given regular course. C-118.
C-118, relative to the appropriation of $250,000 to the school department expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
C-118 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Regular course, Mr. President.
C-118 has been given regular course. C-119.
C-119, relative to the appropriation of $350,000 to the stabilization fund, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
C-119 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
And also regular course, Mr. President.
C-119 has been given regular course. Moving on to petitions 67-16.
6716, Robert A. Cornetta, renew the license for 2 pool tables at Miranda's Pub located at 488 Lancaster Street.
67-16 is referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
First time on the agenda, regular course, Mr. President, with referrals to the treasurer, the police department, and the license commission.
Okay, 67-16 has been given regular course with a referral to the treasurer, the police department, and the license commission. 68-16.
6816, Claire Freda, amend the City of Leominster's local room occupancy excise tax under Mass General Law, Chapter 64G, Section 38, to the rate of 6%.
And 68-16 is referred to the Chairman of Legal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course with a referral to the Economic Development Coordinator in the Treasurer's Office.
Okay, 68-16 will be given regular course with a referral to the Economic Development Coordinator and the Treasurer's Office.
Mr. President?
Yes.
How would you feel about referring it to the mayor at this point?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. We could also include the mayor.
If we could too, also the comptroller as well.
Sure.
To see how, okay. Any other referrals, or are we all set? Okay. Moving on to matters before the City Council. Under Ways and Means, C-93. Madam Chairwoman, are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. This has been given regular course in our last meeting. I'm not certain if we read the request into records, so I'd like to do so at this time. Members of the City Council, I'm writing to ask for your support of a petition to allow the City of Leominster to pursue $23,927 to the Department of Justice JAG program. The Leominster Police Department intends to utilize this funding to support continued community policing efforts and equipment purchases. The grant requires notification and subsequent vote of the governing body, in this case the Leominster City Council. before the grant can be submitted. This is an excellent opportunity for the city to access Department of Justice funding. I hope you will support moving forward with this application. So I believe this is something they spoke about this evening, something that we do regularly. This grant, I believe that we should pursue it for these reasons, and my recommendation would be to grant.
Okay, and can we check with members of the committee? Councilor Marchand?
I concur. Thank you.
And Councilor Lanciani as well?
Concur.
Okay, so it looks like the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee is to grant C-93. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Councilor Frida?
Not a discussion, just a comment. This is something we've been doing for years, and it's a great match to get, to get through to our police department, so I agree.
Okay, any other comment or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-93, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-93 has been granted. 49-16, Madam Chairwoman.
Yes, Mr. President, 4916 Best Buy stores renew the secondhand dealer license for the location at 33 Orchard Hill Park Drive. This is, I think, the third time on the agenda. We've given it regular course and further time. We have requested that Best Buy indicate to us if they've had any changes in their trade-in program, because it was a concern that perhaps they did. And I don't believe that as of today they have complied. So, for the time, or just let it go? Withdraw. I will go to my committee.
Councilor Marchand, would you like to weigh in?
On behalf of the counselor that brought up the matter, the concern, if I can yield the floor to that counselor, a little guidance on it. I have no problem with either way on it.
So, Councilor Frida, would you like
Just
to?
the frustration of dealing with a box store, they're just not getting back to
Well,
us.
the only reason, through the chair, the only reason I brought it up was because I got a letter from a constituent. I don't know if anybody else did. It was pretty frustrated on being misled to bring a TV back with an advertisement that said they take the TV and in return for a purchase of a new one, pile it, pack it in their car, maneuver it into their car, and then have to take it back home because they no longer did that policy. And had to pay $25 or $50 to have it taken. So, it would have been courteous just for them to return a letter or a phone call or something to tell us what their policy is. I mean, I don't want to hold up their ability to trade in secondhand materials. I don't have a problem either way, but I think in fairness to the constituent that had the issue, he was just pointing out that he thought it was a poor policy and wanted to bring it to my attention. So I brought it to all yours.
Councilor Danza?
I think it'd be courteous for them to show up down there. I think it'd be courteous for them to show up down here and ask them. I mean, it's rather callous for them, there's no letter, there's no communication whatsoever. I think from my point of view, I think we should send them a message.
Councilor Lanciani, I believe you're the third one. Do you have?
I would like to see someone come down. I mean, the courtesy is that we are looking at their right to renew their license, but we've also had a word of caution from a purchaser to a city councilor, and she's doing her rights by bringing it before us, and I think that, we're here to help, but if we ask someone to come down, all we're doing is asking them to come down, explain what they do, what they don't do, and then we can move from there. I would say, send them a letter and telling them they need to come in.
Okay. All right, so, Madam Chairwoman, I guess, Councilor Frida, do you have any other?
Yeah, through the chair to the clerk. Did we send them anything?
I sent them a letter to the local store, figuring you'd probably get a better response if you could send it locally. I don't know if the person that even submits it
So they don't even know that their license hasn't been renewed yet.
Well, some of these companies hire somebody to do all this licensing for them, so it's not even probably Best Buy that sends it in.
Okay. So, Madam Chairwoman, I guess it's back to you for recommendation.
Can we send it certified mail and then we have a name of somebody that actually got the letter? I might want to just try it one more time. Maybe they're a big company in the city and maybe somebody isn't getting it or.
Is there anything on the petition?
Yeah, the applicant is from Richfield, Minnesota. So, I think there's a telephone number. So perhaps I'll work with the city clerk and we'll see if we can get somebody. We'll do it one more time, further time.
So you want to further time it one more time?
I'll work with the city clerk. I can make a phone call or see if we can get somebody
Councilor
to pay
Marchand,
attention.
are you okay with that?
I agree with it.
Okay.
We saw a consequence in our last meeting for an issue brought before the council on a license, and the consequence was carried out. This has fallen on deaf ears, it's legitimate. The license is specific to the policy and that ability to do just that, so I agree. Excuse me, I agree with my colleagues here. Let's bring them down here, it's one way or the other, even if it's a local manager that comes down, which is what we're trying to get out of this deal.
Yeah.
Councilor Marciani, you okay with further time? We'll try a little bit harder to get them down here.
Okay.
That would
All
be my
right,
recommendation.
okay, so the
further time.
recommendation unanimously of the Ways and Means Committee is to give 49-16 further time. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of 49-16 having further time, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 49-16 has been given further time. Moving on to Ways and Means and Legal Affairs, 52-16. I'll refer this first to Ways and Means.
So, we had discussed all of these petitions at the last meeting, and we had set up a situation where they could send us portfolios by a due date. And we did receive 4 of them. So the next step would be to have a combined Ways and Means and Legal Affairs meeting to discuss the portfolios, to rate them against criteria, and then pick the 2 leading applicants and have them come down for an interview. So
At this point, would you like to take all of them in block?
I believe, well,
Actually,
there's 2 that actually would be out of the mix. I'm gonna have the chairman of Legal
Want to
Affairs
take
chime
the
in.
4 in
Right.
office?
Yeah.
Councilor Dombrowski?
Yeah, I would take petition 5216, 5316, 5616, and 6516 in block.
I think it's 54,
That's right.
16, 52, 53, 54, and 65. 55 and 56 did not submit.
I don't think I agree with that.
Would we rather just do one at a time? Want to just do one at a time? Because I know that there's people that have conflicts and all that, and it kind of slipped my mind. Let's just take them one at a time.
It's not gonna take a long time.
It won't take long. We're gonna take more debating this than just doing them one at a time. So, 52-16. Councilor Dombrowski, were you looking to weigh in on something?
No, just the taking them in block issue. That's fine.
Okay. So, Madam Chairwoman of Ways and Means, I'll go back to you.
Okay, so 5216, Mackey Barge for DO Health Massachusetts Inc. Consider and issue a letter of municipal support for non-opposition relative to the siting of a medical marijuana facility at 30 Patriot Circle. So my recommendation would be further time because we're going to be setting up a subcommittee meeting.
Okay, Councilor Marchand.
I yield the floor to Councilor Zephyr first, please.
Thank you. I will be abstaining from this vote due to a potential conflict of interest.
Okay. And you all set with further
I
time?
agree, thank you.
Okay, and Counsel Lanciani?
Counsel
I
Lanciani.
concur.
Okay, so, and now I'll check with Legal Affairs, Counsel Dombrowski?
Same recommendation.
Okay, and Counsel Frady, you're all set with that, Counsel Marchand. So, 52-16 has been requested to give further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving 52-16 further time, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, 52-16 has been given further time, with Counsel Shalfo Zephyr abstaining. 53-16, Madam Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
5316, Peter Campabasso, Esquire for Alternative Therapies Group, Inc., request a local letter of non-opposition to locate a registered marijuana dispensary in the city of Leominster. And again, Mr. President, give that further time. We'll be setting up a subcommittee meeting.
Okay. Counsel Marchand, you all set with that as well? Any comment?
I just want to clear something up here for a moment, if I may. In the first application, if I can just refer back to the previous petition, the letter of support of non-opposition was relative to the siting of a medical marijuana facility. In this one right here, we're looking at a registered marijuana dispensary. Are we looking at are we defining the facility as a grow facility, or is it a dispensary as well?
My understanding is DO Health Massachusetts is asking for a letter of support for a dispensary and a cultivation facility.
Okay.
And the cultivation as well?
Combination.
Okay, all right. So the recommendation through the chair was further time?
Further time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Counsellor Lanciani?
I concur.
Okay. And now Legal Affairs, Counsellor Dombrowski.
Further time.
Okay. Counsellor
I just think it's important, if the chairs would just mention where this is, so people that are listening know exactly what the locations are.
Lock Drive? Yeah, Lock Drive in Leominster.
5316 is Lot Drive?
Yeah,
Yes.
at Lot 2 on Lock Drive is what I'm showing here on a which was submitted on June 9th, 2016 at 9:36 a.m. Okay. So you've heard the recommendation of both the Ways and Means and Legal Affairs Committee to give 53-16 further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving 53-16 further time, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 53-16 has been given further time. 54-16, Madam Chairwoman.
5416, Edward J. Bartlett Jr., CFO for Middlesex Integrative Medicine. Request a letter of support or non-opposition to operate a registered marijuana dispensary at 25 Mohawk Drive. Again, Mr. President, further time.
Okay, Counsel Marchand, do you in agreement?
Concur.
Counsel Lanciani?
Concur.
Okay, and now Legal Affairs, Counsel Dombrowski?
Further time.
Counsel Frida? Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendations of the Ways and Means and Legal Affairs Committees to give 54-16 further time. Is there any discussion? Councilor Bodanza?
I just want to point out, when I took a look at this particular one, even though the blurb here suggests a RMD, they said they'd like to talk about an RMD, but apply for a cultivation site, just so the public knows.
Okay. And any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving 54-16 further time, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 54-16 has been given further time. 55-16, Madam Chairwoman.
55-16, Mark Rosenfeld, CEO for ComCan, Inc. Request a letter of non-opposition to operate a registered marijuana dispensary at Southgate Business Park. This particular petitioner did not submit a portfolio by the deadline, so I'm not clear whether we should give further time and discuss that at the subcommittee meeting, or do we give it leave to withdraw?
Leave to withdraw.
Okay.
Okay.
And my recommendation would be leave to
Your
withdraw.
recommendation will be leave to withdraw. There was, Madam Clerk, you've confirmed that there was no portfolio that came from them. Okay, and Counsel
I
Marchand?
concur.
Counsel Lanciani?
I concur.
Okay. Now I'll check with Legal Affairs. Mr. Chairman of Legal Affairs, do you concur?
Leave to withdraw, yep.
Okay, and Council
Leave to
Frida?
withdraw or deny. Maybe
Okay.
two options.
I'll go along with legal affairs, leave to withdraw.
Okay. So you've heard the recommendation to give 55-16 leave to withdraw. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving 55-16 leave to withdraw, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 55-16 has been given leave to withdraw. 56-16, Madam Chairwoman.
56-16, Robert C. Carr, Jr., President and CEO for Nature's Remedy of Massachusetts, request a letter of support or non-opposition to operate a registered marijuana dispensary at Southgate Business Park. I just want to check with the Chair of Legal Affairs, who indicated that he perhaps thought that they had submitted a portfolio, but I don't have any record of that.
No, I
Councilor
have the
Dabrowski.
numbers
Okay.
inverted,
Okay.
so, no, you're correct.
Okay, so I would, again, give that petition leave to withdraw.
Okay, Councilor Marchian, you concur, and Councilor Lanziani?
I concur.
Okay, and the Chairman of Legal Affairs?
Leave to withdraw.
Okay, and Councilor Frida? Okay, so
agree.
you've heard the unanimous recommendations by both the Ways and Means Committee and the Legal Affairs Committee to give 56-16 leave to withdraw. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving 56-16 leave to withdraw, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 56-16 has been given leave to withdraw. 65-16, Madam Chairwoman.
65-16, Pat Scorzelli, agent for Prime Wellness Centers, Inc., request a local letter of municipal support and non-opposition for the siting and establishment of a registered medical marijuana dispensary in the city of Leominster on Lock Drive. And we did receive a portfolio from Prime Wellness, so I would request further time.
Okay, Councilor Marchian?
I agree.
Councilor Lanziani?
I concur.
And the Chairman of Legal Affairs?
Further time.
Okay, and Councilor Frida? Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means and Legal Affairs Committee to give 65-16 further time. Is there any discussion? Councilor Frida?
Well, not on this particular one, but I think it's important that the public that is listening to us tonight realize that letters of non-opposition, they need to get that from us in order to go to the state and apply for a license. So this is it may seem insignificant, but it's a pretty serious step in their process. So I think people need to realize that's what we're dealing with here.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving 65-16 further time, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 65-16 has been given further time. Moving on to Legal Affairs, C-33. Mr. Chairman, are you ready to report?
I am. Communication 33, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the City Council submit a request pursuant to Article 2, Section 8, Paragraph 1, Clause 1 of the amendments of the Constitution as amended by Article 89, that State Senator Jennifer L. Flanagan and State Representative Dennis A. Rosa file special legislation with the General Court on behalf of the city seeking to exempt the positions of police chief and police captain from the Civil Service Law, General Law, Chapter 31, as follows. An act exempting the positions of police chief and police captain in the city of Leominster from the Civil Service Law. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives and General Court assembled and by the authority of the same as follows. Section 1. The positions of police chief and police captain in the city of Leominster shall be exempt from Chapter 31 of the general laws. Section 2. This act shall take effect upon its passage. We had a meeting set up with quite a few people to come on June 1st. The meeting was canceled due to a letter we received from the mayor dated May 26, 2016. I'll read that letter into the record. Members of the City Council, On December 8, 2015, I submitted a petition relative to exempting the positions of police chief and police captain in the city of Leominster from the civil service law. The purpose of submitting the communication to the city council was to have a meaningful dialogue about removing the chief and captain positions from civil service and the benefits of that process. On February 22nd, a representative from civil service was invited to the city council meeting. On June 1st, the City Council is organizing a forum with the following, including myself: Leominster Police Chief, Leominster Fire Chief, a representative from the Mass Chiefs of Police, a representative from the Patrolmen's Union, a representative from the Superior Officers Union. June 1 will be 176 days since I filed the communication, and we have yet to examine the opinion of any of the cities and towns that have been operating without a civil service chief. With less than 1 year left and no decision on the resolution, I believe that in the best interests of those wishing to take the test, who now will have less than a year to study for the test, to move along in the process. Because of these reasons, I have moved the process along and will not be supporting this effort any longer. Sincerely, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. So given the mayor's letter, the recommendation from my seat would be leave to withdraw.
Okay. Councilor Frida, do you concur?
I agree.
And Councilor
I agree, thank you.
Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to give C-33 leave to withdraw. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving C-33 leave to withdraw, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-33 has been given leave to withdraw. Moving on to 50-16, Madam, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, are you ready to report?
Thank you, Mr. President. Petition 50-16, James Whitney, rezone parcels 503-3-1, 503-3-2, 503-3-3, 503-3-4, 503-3-5, at the entryway of Southgate Business Park to mixed use from industrial. We had a public hearing tonight. The public hearing was continued to July 11th. We're going to be requesting a letter from Copeland, an opinion from Copeland and Page relative to any spot zoning that may be contemplated by this petition, as well as any ramifications relative to the Moore grant and the PWID grant from this change, or proposed change, rather. Also, I will get a hold of Mr. Whitney and get some contact with the state and get their feedback on the grants as well. So given that, the recommendation is further time.
Okay, and Councilor Frida, you all set with further time? Councilor Marchian?
Agree.
Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to give 50-16 further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of further time, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 50-16 has been given further time. Roll call. Should we go back and do it? Okay, we probably should have done this in a roll call, so just for the record, I'm going to do this in a roll call for further time, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dabrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Bedanza.
Yay.
Councilor Lanciani.
Yay.
Councilor Nichol.
Yay.
Councilor Marchian.
Yay.
And I would be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. 50-16 has been given further time. 62-16, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Petition 62-16, Glen Canario, Southwind Limited. Amend the license for 272 Nashua Street to allow the storage of 12 above-ground storage tanks with a total of 191,000 gallons and 250,000 one-gallon bottles of Class 3B combustible liquid. We had a continuation of a public hearing tonight. The public hearing was continued again to July 11th to allow for a letter from the director of the health department to come into the record. Given those circumstances, the recommendation is further time.
Okay, Councilor Frida, you're all set with that as well? And Counselor Marchian?
Agree.
Okay,
Thank you.
you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to give 62-16 further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will also do this in a roll call vote for further time, beginning with Counselor Frida.
Yay.
Counselor Dabrowski.
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counselor Feckley.
Yay.
Counselor Bedanza.
Yay.
Counselor Lanciani.
Yay.
Counselor Nichol.
Yay.
Counselor Marchian.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. 62-16 has been given further time. 63-16.
Mr. President, if I may, I'd like
Yes.
to abstain from 63-16 and 64-16.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, 63-16 will be referred to the Chairman of Legal Affairs.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Petition 6316, Peter E. Bavenzi, trustee, Neighborhood Development Trust, approve a zoning change to change maximum height for principal buildings in RC District as set forth in subsection 22-40.3 on lots with at least 5 acres of area from 35 feet to 40 feet. We had a public hearing tonight. We closed the public hearing. I believe we have a divided recommendation with myself recommending that the petition be granted and Council Frida recommending that the petition be denied. Am I misspeaking?
Councilor Frida, is that correct?
I can go with tabling it, give them an opportunity to do what needs to be done.
Okay. And Councilor Frida recommending tabling the petition.
Okay.
I don't know how you want to proceed. I request perhaps a motion
Yeah,
to approve.
since we can't come to a consensus with the Legal Affairs Committee, I think the appropriate thing to do is go to the City Council and ask that somebody make a motion on this petition. And I see Councilor Bedanza's hand.
Yeah, I'll move to grant 63-16.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to grant 63-16. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Councilor Dombrowski. So there's, the recommendation is to grant 63-16. Is there any discussion? Councilor Frida.
This may seem insignificant to a lot of people, but this has been a 10-year project. I sat through meeting after meeting after meeting as the Ward 3 councilor over 10 years ago because that land needed to be rezoned in order to do what Mr. Bavenzi wanted to do. It took a leap of faith and a lot of promises, a lot of corrections to some of their problems to be able to support a zoning change. These people came down to this council, many of you remember, came down to this council and spoke in support of the zoning change with the stipulation that the land, be targeted for 55 and older, and the failed septic systems that people were dealing with would be corrected. And it was Mr. Bavenzi's suggestion that that be done because the part of the grant process, and I'm going back so far now, I can't remember exactly which authority brought it up, but it was, they did not want these septic systems, septic failures encroaching on the property that they were gonna finance. So and this isn't anything against Mr. Bavenzi, it's just a slow move, but it took time and time again of people commenting, people calling, and people calling. You do a few feet, do another few feet. You do and a lot of it is done. There were 3 to 4 people that are not connected yet. There is nothing that's gonna get that done because there's nothing else that's gonna move him unless he can get something in return. And I know, Mr. President, you've been talking to a lot of the neighbors over the past few years that you know. And they're not happy that, this isn't done. So I don't object to this. I think if his foot was held to the flame, as Mr. Reynolds said, it would be done because the machinery is there. Everything's sitting there, which makes it even more frustrating. The pipes are there. The pipes were provided by the DPW. That was part of the agreement. Pipes are sitting there, the equipment's there. Matter of somebody getting on the equipment, digging a hole, putting the pipe in. and it's just not getting done. He moved to doing the snack bar and getting that done, doing the court. So, you know, you have people going by there seeing all these things that are being done, and what they were promised 10 years ago isn't being completed. So I think in fairness, I'd almost guarantee that if we table this, that he would have it done. I just saw him 2 months ago, and he said, "Up, Frank's getting out there tomorrow, it'll be all done." That's why the equipment's sitting there, and that's why it needs to be completed. So, you know, I would ask, on behalf of that neighborhood that came here in good faith, you know, that those last 3 to 4 houses get completed. And if it's tabled, I guarantee it gets done, because it's not costly, and it's just a matter of taking the time to do it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? I believe I saw Councilor Pedanza's hand first, and then I'll go back to you, Councilor Pedanza.
I understand the Councilor at Large's frustration with this, and it's well purposed. I just happen to see this particular petition as different than the next one. This one affects not just the petitioner, but the city at large. Plus, it corrects what I think is an error, a mistake, that it should have never been 35 feet to begin with. It brings the existing buildings into compliance. I think from a policy perspective, we might be better looking at what the council at large wants to affect with 64-16 rather than 63-16. That's the distinction I draw.
Okay. Councilor Dombrowski, did I see your hand as well?
Yeah, I don't think it's an insignificant issue. I think it's a significant issue. I just don't believe that this is the appropriate forum to do that. I don't believe that a zoning change that affects an entire district can be conditioned on an individual doing something. That just simply wouldn't pass judicial muster. I think if you table it, you run the risk of constructive approval. I understand. I think it's something that can be raised perhaps with the planning board, perhaps in a different forum, but not relative to approving a zoning change that affects the entire district.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Thank you very much. I'm actually going to agree with my Councilor at Large to my far left. I understand. I have been, you know, on the receiving end of frustrations when, you know, people in a neighborhood have been promised one thing and then it never gets done. And it's, you know, when people come before the city council asking for individual treatment, they're asking us to make change pretty much for them. I don't have a problem, you know, holding things up in order to get our people taken care of in that neighborhood. So, you know, table it, give it leave to withdraw. I mean, I'm supportive of that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councilor Nichol.
You know, the interesting thing is, we turned down Mr. Whitney, didn't turn him down, but we said we were going to continue the hearing for Mr. Whitney because the zoning board voted one way and the planning board the other. Here we have again, 2 petitions. And they say they review the request, the recommendation. The board reviewed the petitions, but do not feel they have enough information to make a recommendation. Well, at this point, you know, it's frustrating. I can see both sides of the picture. When Mr. Vivanzi first started this project, he would have been charged for a hookup fee of a certain amount of money. It was changed so that each individual unit was going to cost as much as the entire project would have cost. So suddenly, you know, what he was probably counting on for money was disappeared for a while so that he could get the project at least started. But at the same time, how do you say to one gentleman, you know, we've got a split here, we need to hear more about this. And then you have another petition a little bit further on, and you say, well, you know, maybe we could grant it after all. For one of the things is, you know, I don't know which one of these petitions they all combined. So if I knew that they needed more information on one, but not the other, in my mind, that would make a difference. But I'd like to see further time, just so that we can, I think we need to send a letter to the zoning board of appeals saying, what information do you need? And then make sure that that's communicated with Mr. DeFenzi. And hopefully in 2 weeks, we're gonna have it straightened out. Now, I have to admit, I haven't been here for a while, so the chair of legal affairs said that we might end up with a constructive approval because we didn't act in time. But I'm not really sure. Are we under that, are we under the gun for having to vote? Is 2 weeks gonna make a difference? Or is that put this, really get essentially constructive approval?
Councilor Dombrowski, do you have any?
Yeah, we closed the public hearing, so we really can't get any more information from the zoning board. 2 weeks would not make a difference with constructive approval. I think it's 90 days is my memory. But I think that answers your questions.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Councilor Frida?
Yeah, I'm not looking to table it the way some people look at tabling it, to just put it under the table and leave it there. I firmly believe that Peter will do the project, he'll finish it, because it'll be a push that he needs. It's not gonna get into a constructive approval. I mean, I don't see how that would even enter into it. We've had one in here in the 22 years I've been here. I don't think that would happen.
Okay.
So go further time. I'm fine with further time. I was trying to give him a little bit more time with tabling it, but further time and then let it come up again in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Guarantee it'll be done. I mean, he's not maliciously not doing it. He's just dragging his feet. We all know how he is.
It's been 10 years.
Okay, so is there any other discussion? Councilor Lanciani?
I know this may sound facetious, but can't we just have a letter sent out to him and tell him that it's about time that he does what he needs to do, and that this is being given further time, and once he gets things accomplished, we'll move.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Councilor Dombrowski?
I understand what everybody's saying. I'm just saying that it's inappropriate, doesn't quite capture it. It's highly inappropriate to condition a zoning change that affects a district on a particular individual's having to do something. It's just appropriate.
Councilor Frida?
I don't know why you're suggesting it's conditioning it. This whole piece of land was all in the same plan. And he's looking to take a piece of it and change the zoning that was originally there. That's not conditioning anything. If you want to subdivide that lot that went for financing and went for approval on the state level and went through the 55 plus, all with the premise that it was all residential. Now we're looking to change it to some commercial.
But if I may, that's on the other petition.
Well,
This petition
they're both
is
together.
different. To get this separate.
All right,
This
I'll wait,
separate.
I'll take my argument till the next one.
This separate, okay. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I believe that the recommendation, and we had a second, was to grant 63.
Motion.
-16, it was a motion to grant 63-16. So if there's no further discussion, we'll take a vote to grant, and we'll do this in a roll call manner, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Nay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Nay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Bedanza.
Yay.
Counselor Lanciani.
Yay.
Counselor Nichol.
Nay.
And I will be recorded as, I'll be recorded as yay, so it's a 4-4 vote, so the motion does not carry. Motion does not carry, so 63-16 has not been granted, it's been denied. Moving on to 64-16.
Well, I think you still, the motion was denied. The petition is still pending.
Okay.
So I think we need
So the
to take some type of action,
So the
Would
motion,
required a supermajority anyway, so
Yeah.
we don't have the votes no matter, even if there was a.
okay.
Yeah, so I'll move for further time.
Okay, so we've heard a recommendation. Do we hear a second for further time
I'll
on
second it.
63-16? So we have a motion and a second for further time on 63-16. Do we have any discussion on that motion, on that recommendation? Seeing none, we'll do this in a roll call manner to give 63-16 further time, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dabrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Bedanza.
Yay.
Councilor Lanciani.
Yay.
Councilor Nichol.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 8-0. 63-16 has been given further time. Moving on to 64-16, Mr. Chairman.
6416, Peter E. Bavenzi, trustee, Neighborhood Development Trust. Approve the zoning change from commercial district to residency district for a 21,840 square foot parcel as shown on Assessor's Map 317, Parcel 7A. I'll go to Council Frida.
My recommendation would be further time.
I'm not Nostradamus, but I will, I will go along with further time.
Okay. All right, so you've heard the recommendation of Legal Affairs to give further time on 64-16. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will do this in a roll call manner for further time, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Bedanza.
Yay.
Councilor Lanciani.
Yay.
Councilor Nichol.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 8-0. 64-16 has been given further time. 66-16, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Petition 66-16, Al McCallie, Ayob Engineering, Inc., agent for Sunoco LLC, amend the license for 468 Main Street to allow the storage of two 300-gallon above-ground storage tanks for waste oil and heating oil and two 20,000-gallon underground storage tanks for gasoline and diesel. We had a public hearing. The agent for Sunoco came down, explained everything. From this seat, I would recommend that we grant 6616.
Okay, and Councilor Frida, are you in accord with granting? Okay. And
Agree. Thank you.
Councilor Martian, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of Legal Affairs Committee to grant 66-16. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will do this in a roll call manner to grant 66-16, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Bedanza.
Yay.
Councilor Lanciani.
Yay.
Councilor Nichol.
Yay.
Councilor Marchian.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. 66-16 has been granted. Moving on to the City of Leominster's financial report. Mr. Chairman, are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. The emergency reserve account remains appropriated as it was at the beginning of the fiscal year with a $100,000 balance. The stabilization fund has been restored and remains at $13,613,546. And our free cash summary, which was certified on July 1 at $7,688,829, with all the appropriations that have been voted, are pending this evening. We're on the calendar for the first time tonight. There would be a total of $7,498,755, leaving an amount available for appropriation of $170,074.
Okay. You've heard the City of Leominster's financial report. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, we will move on to the other finance items, beginning with C-94. Mr. Chimney, you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-94, relative to the appropriation of $2,893 to the Disability Commission fines reserved for appropriation account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. This amount represents approximately 50% of the handicap fines collected between January and June of 2015, and the sum is being requested to be restored or appropriated to the Disability Commission fines reserved for appropriation account for the Disability Commission's use. It would be my position to grant. I'll check with members of my committee, Councilor Shalvo-Zephyr.
Through the chair, why are they getting 50%?
It's just an amount that the mayor has decided to appropriate to for their use out of the total.
Okay, and the other 50% just stays in the general fund?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'll support it because they deserve it. Absolutely. It's a start. Yes, it is.
Councilor Nichol?
Yeah, grant.
So the unanimous recommendation of the finance is to grant C-94.
So you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-94. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of, I'm sorry, Councilor Feckley.
Right. I just wanted to, just for the public, I sit on the Disabilities Commission, and I just wanted to explain, these funds will go towards, hopefully this is something that we're working on now, hopefully scholarships for disabled students at Leominster High School, and some special equipment for disabled students as well.
Okay.
And also training programs.
Okay. So I'm sure that all the people that paid their fines will be happy to know that they're going to a good cause, so maybe it'll make them feel a little better when they had to take out their checkbook. Okay, is there, Councilor Frida?
Just out of curiosity, and you can roll, to be on the safe side, should you be abstaining? Your committee's gonna benefit from your
I
vote?
have a feeling that this is going to be a positive vote, so I will err on the side of caution and abstain.
Okay. Okay, so Councilor Feckley will be abstaining from the vote. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-94, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, C-94 has been granted. Mr. Chairman, do you have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, ordered that the sum of $2,893 be appropriated to the Disability Commission fines reserved for appropriation account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard a request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order, please signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, the order has been adopted. C-95, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. President. C-95, relative to the appropriation of $7,000 to the Historical Commission expense account, the same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. As you heard during the public forum earlier this evening, this amount is being requested to purchase some equipment for the Leominster Historical Commission, largely made up of a computer system, which includes also a scanner, a wireless router, and some other associated equipment. One of the missions of the Historical Commission is to catalog, digitize, and preserve a number of documents and images of historic importance in the city of Leominster. As you all know, they do a wonderful job over there, and it would be my position to grant C-95, and I'll check with members of my committee.
I certainly support it.
So the unanimous recommendation, Mr. President, is to grant C-95.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-95. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all Councilor Frida?
Just a comment. I think every time they ask for money at the Historical Commission, they always come here, the whole board, and say how important it is to them. I mean, I wish we'd see that more often.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-95, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-95 has been granted. Mr. Chairman, do you have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $7,000 be appropriated to the Historical Commission expense account, same to be transferred to the excess and deficiency account, Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order, please signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order has been adopted. Moving on to C-96.
Yes, Mr. President, C-96 relative to the appropriation of $150,000 to municipal buildings capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and efficiency account. This relates to the improvements that are being done down on Mechanic Street with respect to the park. This is to provide for the demolition of 3 buildings down there and other improvements associated with the park. Would be my position to grant C-96, and I'll check with members of my committee.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr?
Yes, I support this.
Councilor Nichol?
As do I.
Okay.
So, Mr. President, the unanimous recommendation is to grant C-96.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-96. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-96, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-96 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $150,000 be appropriated to the municipal building capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and efficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order, please signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-96 has been adopted. C-97.
Yes, Mr. President, C-97 relative to the appropriation of $22,000 to the library expense account, same to be transferred from the library salary and wages account. This involves the update or replacement of the current phone system and associated computer equipment at the library. This money is needed to update an outdated system, and it would be my position to grant C-97, and I'll check with members of my committee.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I agree.
Councilor Nichol?
So the unanimous recommendation, Mr. President, is to grant C-97.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-97. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-97, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-97 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Ordered that the sum of $22,000 be appropriated to the library department expense account, same to be transferred from the library salary and wages account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order, please signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-97 has been adopted. C-98.
C-98, relative to the appropriation of $50,000 to the police department overtime account, same to be transferred to the police department salary and wages account. We've had prior appropriations during the fiscal year similar to this. There are manpower shortages relative to injured on duty, family leave act, and an unfilled supervisor position. So this is a transfer from the salary and wages line item to the overtime line item, and I would recommend granting C-98, and I'll check with members of my committee.
Yeah, I concur.
So do I.
All right.
Yes, Mr. President, the unanimous recommendation of finance is to grant C-98.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-98. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-98, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-98 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, in order that the sum of $50,000 be appropriated to the police department overtime account, same to be transferred from the police department salary and wages account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order, please signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-98 has been adopted. C-99.
C-99, relative to the appropriation of $50,000 to the police department capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the police department salary and wages account. This money is necessary to purchase tasers, which apparently are old and requiring an inordinate amount of maintenance and downtime, and relative to also training in connection with new tasers and holsters. My recommendation would be to grant. I'll check with members of my committee.
I am actually going to support this, but I would like to communicate to the chief that for future requests for equipment, I'd like to see more detail. I mean, this is a 2-paragraph, I request $50,000. That's a lot of money with absolutely no detail. So I'd like to see a quote, for things like this in the future. But tonight, I'm willing to support this.
All right, appreciate that, and I'll follow up with the chief to make sure that he gets that message.
Thank you.
Councilor Nichol?
Yes, I agree with granting.
Unanimous recommendation, Mr. President, is to grant C-99.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-99. Is there any discussion? Council Frida?
Just to note, to notice that these are just being transferred from their own accounts, not additional money, so it's just transferring from one to the other.
Right.
It's a shuffle.
Right, I'm sorry. No, I understand that, but we're still, we're still approving the appropriation. So I think for me in particular, it would be helpful to have more detail. I mean, whenever the fire department comes down, Chief Sidlow is really good about providing detail consistently. So, and other people are as well, emergency management. So that's just something, across the board I would like to see. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-99, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-99 has been granted. Mr. Chairman, do you have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, in order that the sum of $50,000 be appropriated to the Police Department Capital Outlay Expense Account, same to be transferred from the Police Department Salary and Wages Account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order, please signify by saying yea.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-99 has been adopted. C-100.
Madam Clerk, do I need to read this?
No, you have to read it on the back page so you can waive the reading on this.
Waive the reading. No,
Okay, but maybe if you want to summarize, just...
C-100 is ultimately the second reading of a loan order in the amount of $1,500,000 for updates to the Pond Street and Wachusett Reservoir pump stations. We'll be dealing with this at the back end of the agenda when we approve the second reading.
Okay. Okay, so do we need to vote to approve this, right? So Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr, are you
in agreement?
Councilor
Yes.
Bedanza, are you okay with
Yes.
granting this, and Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr as well? Councilor Nichol?
Yeah,
Okay.
grant.
Okay, so the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee is to grant C-100. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-100, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-100 has been granted. Is there an order on this?
The order comes at the end.
The order's at the end, okay. All right, so we will move on to the appointment. Madam Chairwoman of Ways and Means, are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. We had Carrie Noseworthy down here for an appointment to the Emergency Management Administrative Unit, and I think that all will agree that Ms. Noseworthy was very impressive. She has a very impressive resume. She came here with her impressive family, and I believe that she'll be able to contribute very uniquely to the Office of Emergency Management, something that we may not have even known we needed, an offshoot of Red Cross type efforts and support for disabled members of our community, autistic members of our community, and beyond. So my recommendation would be to approve the appointment of Carrie Noseworthy to the Emergency Management Administrative Unit.
Okay, and Councilor Marchand, are you all set? And Councilor Lanciani as well? Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to appoint Carrie Noseworthy to the Emergency Management Administrative Unit. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting or confirming the appointment, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, Carrie Noseworthy has been appointed to the Emergency Management. Moving on to old business, we have a second reading of a loan order, and this will be referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Yes, Mr. President. Second reading of the loan order orders that the sum of $1,500,000 for the purpose of financing rehabilitation of the Pond Street and Wachusett Reservoir pump stations, including without limitation all costs thereof. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow $1,500,000 to issue bonds or notes therefor under General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling legislation and/or Chapter 29C of the general laws. That such bonds or notes shall be general obligations of the city, unless the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, determines that they should be issued as limited obligations and may be secured by local system revenues as defined in Section 1 of Chapter 29C. Treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow all or a portion of such amount from the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust established pursuant to Chapter 29C, and in connection therewith, to enter into a financing agreement and/or a security agreement with the trust, and otherwise to contract with the trust and the Department of Environmental Protection with respect to such loan and for any federal or state aid available for the project or for the financing thereof. And that the mayor or treasurer is authorized to enter into a project regulatory agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection to expend all funds available for the project and to take any other action necessary or convenient to carry out the project and this vote. I believe the recommendation of finance would be to grant the second reading of the loan order.
Okay, Counselor Shalfo-Zephyr, are you all set?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Okay, and Counselor Nichol?
All set.
Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to adopt the second reading of this loan order, and we will do this in a roll call vote, beginning with Counselor Frida.
Yay.
Counselor Dabrowski.
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Yay.
Counselor Feckley.
Yay.
Counselor Bedanza.
Yay.
Counselor Lanciani.
Yay.
Counselor Nichol.
Yay.
Counselor Marchian.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. This second reading of a loan order has been adopted. Is there any other old business to come before the city council? Counselor Dombrowski.
I think on medical marijuana applications, we need to schedule subcommittee meetings.
Yes.
Okay. All right, would you like to do that jointly with Ways and Means? Maybe you two can talk over what works for you and the committees?
It's gonna propose either June 21st or June 23rd.
I can do the 23rd.
Okay.
23rd works for me.
It's 23rd,
It's
is
a
it?
Thursday.
Not a good day for me.
No?
I kind of like to do that.
Is that the budget hearing that night?
No, the
No,
budget
it's
hearing
changed.
nights are the 20th and 22nd.
That's right. Okay.
Mhm. Back to the drawing board.
21st?
21st works.
Is that Tuesday, 21st?
21st is, but,
June.
I can't do the 21st.
Okay.
yeah.
I can't do the 21st.
Is it, just to put it out there, does it make any sense to do this after the budget?
It's fine with me.
We could.
Just, it'll be a little busy, I think, for this meeting too.
Maybe we could, what about the week of either the 27th, 28th, 29th? Actually, no, the 27th, we have a meeting, the 28th, 29th, the 30th, because otherwise you're going into the 4th of July week that next week, so
Mhm. Any of those days would be fine with me.
28th, 29th, or 30th?
Mhm.
30th is good.
I won't be here the 30th.
I could do the 20, I can do the 29th.
June 29th?
Yep.
Mr. President, I think we've decided on June 29th.
Okay.
We have time earlier than
I
later.
can do the 29th.
I prefer a little earlier.
5:30?
Yeah, I could do 5:30.
5:30?
Okay.
Okay, June
So
29th at 5:30.
June 29th at 5:30. We've established a joint Ways and Means and Legal Affairs subcommittee to talk about the medical marijuana letters of non-opposition, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and is there any other old business to come before the city council? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. I've requested to put on the agenda a reorganization of the city council committees. I was looking to make an addition of an alternate member to the finance committee, but I will say this much, I'm very glad to see Councilor Nichol is feeling better and back with us, and will be here with us to get through our budget season. So So at this point, I'm going to ask that, I'm just going to table this, and I think we're all set. It's good to see you back, Councilor Nichol, and on the road to recovery. And we look forward to your expertise to get through all these appropriations in the budget this year. Is there any other new business? Seeing none. Anything under the community calendar? Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Yes. Jimmy's Helping Hand is having an outdoor movie night on Saturday evening, June 25th, at Doyle Field. So bring your, bring your lawn chairs, bring your, beach blankets. It should be a lot of fun. It's a family movie. The suggested donation is going to be $3, a person, or, if people can afford it, that's great. If they can't, that's not a problem. We have hot dogs, popcorn, snow cones, cotton candy, all kinds of fun stuff. So it really should be very, very nice. We have an 18 by 24 foot movie screen. Yeah, it should be really, really fun. So this is something that we're starting, and if it's a success and people think it's fun, we'll have, perhaps another one. So anyway, Saturday night, June 25th, please hope everybody here will come down and spread the word.
Okay, great. Any other, anything else to come under the community calendar? Councilor Feckley.
Well, they probably should be in bed by now, but we should probably wish a safe and happy summer to our students, who I think tomorrow is their last day of school.
Last day of school.
Oh, yeah, so, but they should be in bed.
I'm sure that they weren't happy in January and February and March that they weren't getting snow days,
Right.
but
Right.
they're probably happy now because tomorrow's June 14th and they're already out of school. As opposed to a couple of years ago where they were going till June 30th. Councilor Frida, did I see your hand as well?
I just wanted to congratulate the champion on their 10th anniversary. It doesn't seem like they've been around that long, but nice to have them on board for a different perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Any other, anything else to come under the community calendar? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion and a second for adjournment. Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr, and do I hear a second? Councilor Marchand. The meeting for June 13th of 2016 is now adjourned. Thank you all very much.